the biggest hurt that you feel is when you give them your MC number and they say the worst thing ever, Mel.
Can't work with you.
We cannot use you. You're too new. In business, period, not even just in trucking, it's always going to be people making money off you. I never focused on that, but I never turned a blind eye either. Just understanding, hey, it is more money out here. As the time went on, freight just with that dedicated particular lane just started kind of going downhill. Once that went downhill and it got to the point where it went from 8 loads a day to like 2 loads a day. So I'm back at the drawing board now. Just because there's no load on the load board, freight is still getting moved. Right. Carriers are still making money. There's just no, I always say the load board is just scraps. I said, okay, if a truck can make $1,000, $1,200 in a day with one load, how can I do that locally? So I say, you know what, this I think I got it. So what you do is that's the game right there. So
I got that, everybody. Pause the video right now.
Yeah, that's the game right there.
5 minutes and watch that again.
You follow that formula, you should do minimum 5,000. In a bad market with that formula.
All right. Hustle fam. We are back with another amazing episode. And today, I got a very, very special guest, man. You guys might recognize this young man, Brock. What's good, bro?
What's going on, bro? Yeah, I'm sure they remember I had the tight plug chain on the last episode choking my neck.
So are those the same chains, or
yeah,
did you upgrade? Same
I got
chains?
I got a few new little pieces. Yeah.
Okay, the pieces are hitting.
Yeah.
I see you got the Cardi on the wrist. You know what I'm saying? Looking good as always. Man, how you been, brother?
Been good, man. Been good.
Yeah, man. It's great to see you, man. So the last time we connected, we were in Florida. Miami,
yeah,
right?
You remember we didn't plan that, bro.
We didn't plan that. We both happened to be in Miami for some event. I forgot exactly what it was.
I was there with the guys just turning up. And,
you were turning up, and I was out there on business because I don't turn up.
Yeah.
And I said, "Yo, Brock, let's do it." And we met up at my man Al's spot, and then we did a classic episode, man.
Yeah, bro.
That has hundreds of thousands of views. Y'all go check that out. And I thought it would be really cool, man, to kind of do a where are they now? You know what I mean? Because a lot of times people always reach out. There's still people watching your videos to this day. They're still commenting, still motivated, still inspired. And one of the questions we always get is, man, like, what's going on with the company now? Like, where is he at? He's still in business? Or, so they want to know, man. So I thought it would be amazing to follow up. Because number one, we're friends, just right. Aside from that.
Absolutely.
And we always, keep in touch with each other and all that. But I think it's cool to give the people an update, man. So just really quickly, just kind of give yourself a brief intro. Tell the people about yourself, just real quick.
Okay, gotcha. So yeah, I'm my name is Brock Phillips, also known as B Phillips on Instagram. They also call me Bucko on Instagram.
Bucko.
Yeah, for sure. So I own TruckLife Logistics. I have a few LLCs, so a lot of people may remember I also own Phillips Transportation Inc., which we'll get into that a little more later. But so I still, same thing. I've been in business now 10 years.
10 years.
When we met, man, it was thank you, bro.
Brother. 10 years.
Appreciate that. Appreciate it. Yeah, it's been 10 years. So when we had met in Florida, it was at 2021.
21, I think.
21. Yeah, so at 2021, right. I was already 5 years in.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So to be sitting here with you today, 4 years later, almost 10 years in.
Yeah.
It's a blessing,
and
bro.
Still here.
Still here.
A lot of people can't say that, man.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
That's God, man. So
Absolutely.
You've been blessed. We're going to talk about the business, the journey, where you're at today and where you're going in the future. But I guess the first question I want to kind of start out with is you just now alluded to the fact that when we met, it was 5 years ago. You were maybe 27, 28 years old at that time. Who was Brock Phillips as an entrepreneur then? Who were you then?
Man, I was still the same person overall, humble, blessed, but just my knowledge now is just so much more different than back then, because as we get into it, back then, it's like as I was climbing the ladder, I was still just kind of climbing that ladder, right, back then. So it's like I feel like a lot of times when you're on your entrepreneur journey and you're just constantly going up and you're not experiencing some of those losses yet, you kind of feel a little undefeated. It kind of puts put this thing on your back where you just feel like I'm untouchable. You know what I'm saying? At that moment, it just life was good. Because one thing about it, right, Mel, I was in business for, at that time, about 5 years. So I didn't really start seeing success almost until that point where we linked up. So maybe about a year before then was when I kind of started seeing success. Because as we all know, one thing about, starting a business, I remember Rick Ross had a saying, it's like, you got to put sometimes 4-5 years in, before you even see a penny. You know what I'm saying? So, and that was something that I definitely experienced.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And at that time, I think everybody was up.
Yeah.
Right?
It was COVID. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
This was COVID, just post COVID, coming out of COVID. Everybody was up. Man, you just see like everything was looking bright.
Right.
The future was looking bright. So it was a really good time in the industry for everyone. And, that could be a part of the problem now, right?
Yeah.
Like all these new authorities and all these people that got into the business for maybe some of the wrong reasons.
Yep.
Right. But it was a really good time. Like you said, you were young, still young.
Yeah.
But you were 28.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, you like a baby, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I remember you like, just like shining, man. You were just excited, just really encouraged and just doing your thing.
Living life.
At that time, what did your business look like?
So at that moment, I had 6 trucks. I had 4 drivers. I was running 4 of the 6 trucks. I was pretty much 100% out the seat then. So pretty much what I was doing on a day-to-day basis was strictly just running the back office operation, as well as finding all the work for my drivers. So I had a few little dedicated lanes. I feel like most people, once you've been in business for a couple of years, you're going to have a few little dedicated lanes. And then so you pretty much just piecing that together along with finding your freight off of the load boards like most of us use.
Yeah.
So pretty much, on a day-to-day basis, I was just sitting back, pretty much just enjoying life, but at the same time, still just wherever I was at, whether I was on a trip or at home, majority of the time at home, just running the operations, finding loads on a day-to-day basis. When drivers would call out, of course, I would step in and take over their shift and things like that. That's what I was doing at that time.
Yeah, 6 trucks, and you talked about how you ran a local operation. In fact, that was the theme of the show, right?
Yeah,
like, we don't do OTR. We stay local.
We stay local,
and,
man.
And that was really like where your bread and butter was at. Tell me about that. So just for people, just to bring people up to speed.
Sure.
What did that local operation look like for you at that time?
So when I got started, right, I never forget, I had bought my first truck. A lot of people that I talked about in the last episode of Avant.com, they gave me $25,000. I'm just like, I'm an average guy, man. Coming up before I was an entrepreneur, never seen no real money or anything like that. I'm just working, of course, making ends meet. You know what I'm saying? And that $25,000, I never forget. My buddy Mike, he was the first person I called when I got that money, man. And ended up, of course, doing the right thing with it instead of going out buying designer or just blowing it. I started my business. I used that $25K to actually start my business. And I met another guy, a great guy along the way named Paul. Shout out to my guy, Paul, who helped me grow my business. He was truly the person who helped me grow my business because he would bring on. So once I bought that first truck, I remember we were working part-time at Penske. So I pulled up on him right at Penske and let him see, like, yeah, man, this is my truck. You know what I'm saying? And I remember we had a conversation. I was like, you know what? I said, if I bought another truck, would you drive for me? And he was like, yeah, I'll drive for you. And I remember it was literally about 4 months later, I bought that second truck, and he kept his word. He drove for me. And this was, I started in 2016. So this was probably right around that 2016 because I bought my second truck kind of like the end of 2016, right? So a lot of people who don't know, I always tell people there's 2 sides of trucking, how you can get in. You either could sign to a label, which is almost like, it's like the music industry I compare it to. So you either can sign to a label, which is what you would call leasing under a company, or you can get your own authority, right? Getting your own authority is like having your own record deal or having your own record label. You get what I'm saying? So when I first got started, of course, just like most, I ended up signing to a label, meaning I leased under a company.
Yeah.
And I went through a few companies. We went through a few companies, me and him. He really stuck in there with me, like the first company that we would start off doing port work, right? So this is 2020 going into 2017 because I bought that truck the end of 2016. So the beginning of 2017, we were with this one company. I think we started with a company called Hale Transport. And we started just running intermodal containers, and I'm new to business, of course, super new to business then, just trying to find myself. We were doing trips to Indiana, Ohio, just going all over the place trying to find myself. And it was so crazy because at the end of the week on Fridays, I would always look at the numbers and be like, dang, this is just not enough. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't adding up. And a lot of that was just due to the lack of knowledge. You know, that's the biggest thing I've learned over the years is just knowledge is power. You know what I mean? Just the lack of knowledge, me not educating myself prior to starting my trucking business because I really went out there and bought the wrong equipment, right? So my first truck was a used truck, which wasn't a bad truck, but where I took my first, I would say my first L at was my second truck was a brand new spanking truck. You know, 160 grand, you know what I'm saying? And nothing is wrong with that, you know, but at the same time, it's what are you doing with that truck? I didn't need a brand new truck running intermodal freight, man. I know the OGs in the port was shaking their head, looking at me coming there, shiny bumper, not a scratch on the truck.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And like, man, I know he ain't making no money.
Like this guy right here.
I know. And then
Look at this guy.
And then see one thing about the port world, I'm sure it goes for all ports throughout the whole United States. They're like a small family for a lot of times, right? You need work done. Everybody knows somebody. You know, they stick together. You know who has, oh, you know the blue Peterbilt? Yeah, that's Johnny. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
So everyone knows a lot of the people, as well as that they know the companies that don't pay no money. So I was with the bottom of the barrel company, man.
With the most shiniest truck.
That don't pay no money. And I didn't realize that until later down the line as I start building a relationship, talking to people and realizing, man, yeah, you was with hell, such and such. You know what I'm saying? They don't pay. And I realized that because I was with a total of 2 more port companies. So as I was transitioning companies, I seen that, oh, man, they was right.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the rates are a little better elsewhere.
Wow. It was like, we would have told you, but you look like you knew what you was doing there, young fella, so we figured we'd let you do your thing.
Yeah.
So when you were with this company, what did that look like? What was was it a split, like a 70-30 split, or how did you get paid?
Yeah, so it was pretty much like a split. At that time, I want to say it probably was somewhere around like 70-some%. But you know, one thing about it, man, in this industry, you never know if you're getting the true percentage. You're not seeing, you know, one thing I always did ever since I went independent was I show rate cons. You know, my company drivers, of course, owner operators, what I have now. You know, I always showed the rate con. I'm like, people know me as far from a gatekeeper. I want you to see how much money is in the industry. Even though I always paid drivers salary for the most part, you know, I always knew that, hey, I know a lot of them want to be in my position, so let me just show you what I am making. You know what I'm saying? I never held that back.
For sure. I love that. All right, so you spend how much time with this company, Hale?
I probably spent about six some months probably with Hale.
About 6 months.
Yeah, about 6 months.
New in the business. And then what happens from there?
Oh, man. So after I left Hale, just, you know, one thing about me, I've never been afraid to change. You know, I might then educate myself, but I knew when it was time to go. I'm not going to hold on to something and drown, you know what I'm saying, when I know that there's better opportunities out there. So that's exactly what I did. I kind of networked, talked to people, and I found a better opportunity. I left Hale, and I went over to another company called CTI, which is literally right across the street. So me and Paul, you know, it's one thing, my guy Paul, he was with it. You know, at the time, man, we knew that he understood the process of starting a business and just the inconsistency of everything, right?
Right.
You know, when it comes to your paycheck, when it comes to your schedule, the number one thing is your schedule, because nothing is dedicated yet, right? We still trying to find ourselves. So one day you might find yourself sleeping in the truck, you know what I'm saying, in Ohio and Indiana, and the next day you find yourself getting off at 2-3 o'clock like a regular job.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So it's you and Paul at this time.
Me and
running
Paul,
two trucks?
Running 2 trucks.
Is Paul running the $130,000 truck? And you running the...
Actually, so it's funny, right? It's funny you say that. Now that it brings back a memory. I bought the brand new truck for Paul.
Okay.
He didn't like the truck, bro. I know he gonna watch this. He did not like that. He said the seat, it was just uncomfortable.
It was a feeling.
Because the first truck I bought was a 2016, I believe it was. No, it was a 2012, I'm sorry. Kenworth T680. Loved that truck. Literally, that was my dream truck. So my first truck I bought was my dream truck, right? Yeah. So I didn't want to drive that new truck. Like, I'll be honest, Lone Mountain had a great deal at that time. A lot of people may be familiar with Lone Mountain. I started a good relationship with them, and that truck was only $6,000 down for a brand new truck. If you go to their website right now, brand new trucks are minimum $15,000 to $25,000 down payment. You know what I'm saying? So when you factor in, I guess they had a program going on, and maybe they sat on the lot for a little too long. For only $6,000 down, and you get a brand spanking new truck.
Right.
You really can't beat that deal, right? So I bought that for him, and he ended up coming to me. He said, "Yeah, bro, I ain't gonna lie, truck not too comfortable. I don't like it." So of course, it's one thing just about being in business and just understanding, hey, the driver this my dog. I gotta make sure he's straight.
That's right.
We switched trucks. I gave up my truck, man, and had him driving my truck. And it was so funny because I remember I would look at him. He'd pull out the yard, and I see him in that truck. I'm like,
you mad.
But it's funny because I ended up customizing the truck that I gave for him and ended up making it a little more. I switched the seats out, and it's funny because I remember once I did that, he wanted to switch back. He literally wanted this. I put the Peterbilt seats in there. They was real nice. I put the chrome on. I dressed this truck up too.
Right.
But at that time, of course, the truck I was driving, I think I did a little more with mine just to kind of make it, a little more comfortable. So later down the line, he definitely was thinking he probably should have kept that truck.
No doubt. All right, so you leave here, you go to the company that's right across the street.
Yeah.
And what do?
So they do the same thing. They do
Intermodal
containers.
also.
Exactly.
Okay.
Same thing. Just the rates were a little bit better. We didn't have to do over the road as much, so we didn't have to go out far. Because the first company I was with, we did intermodal, but then we also did drive-in. So every once in a while, how they work was, which they were getting money all kind of ways. So they would have us bring containers as well as other drivers to their yard, strip the containers out, and reload them into drive-ins. Because, a lot of that port freight is just, they need to get it out of the port and actually sit somewhere until it's time for delivery.
Right.
So they were making money all kind of ways, just off the storage, I'm sure off transloading the trailer, taking the freight out, because they had their own forklifts on site at the yard. So they were smart, you know what I'm saying? They would take the freight out. They had drive-ins that they were able to use from the company that they were leased to, because they were actually just agents, which is something that I'm learning now. So all Hail Transport was, they're basically just an agent for another company, which was A&S. And they literally would just take the freight out. They would use A&S's trailers. They would have us come in and end up taking that freight on a drive-in trailer and delivering it where it had to go, which most of the time was like Indiana or like somewhere far.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Explain how that would work with the agency model.
So the agency model, pretty much how it works is, now that I know now, right? If you have a book of business, you can go to certain trucking companies that operate off this model where you can say, hey, I do about, let's just say, $500,000 in revenue, right? I have a book of business that I've built. I would like to partner with you, use your authority, right, to run my loads with my trucks or owner-operator trucks under your business, right? And we split the profit, right? Whatever those numbers are negotiated or whatever they're set at. So the good thing about that business model is Hail Transport, they didn't have all of the liability on them, right? Because they're not they're the trucking company, but they're not the trucking company that DOT is looking at, right? Because they are literally running under A&S's authority. So how the truck would look on the side of it was, it'll say Hail Transport, but right below it says operated by A&S and their DOT number, right? Yeah. So that's something I learned on later down the line. I remember when I was new to business back then, I didn't understand nothing. I didn't understand the game back then or what they were doing until realizing, like, man, it really makes sense, because A&S is handling billing, they're handling paying you, right? They're handling the compliance because it's their authority, and all you're doing is able to focus on your day-to-day operation, and without having to worry about all the other stuff like compliance, keeping drivers in compliance, hours of service. You don't focus on none of that. Their back office takes care of all that. When there's an issue, they send you an email, hey, your driver such and such needs to do this with his logs, he needs to turn this paperwork in. So it allows them to kind of just focus on growing that business, which is a good business model, in my opinion.
Yeah. I love it. All right. So you go to this other company, so they paid a bit better.
Yeah, they
Right.
paid a little bit better for sure. The
little
runs were not quite as far. The schedule was a little more consistent. You know, at that time, he had younger kids, right? So I definitely understood just the importance of spending time with that. So I was happy to know that, you know, he could be off at a decent time now, and I wouldn't have to ask him, hey, bro, you mind taking this over the road trip? Because I remember a few trips we took together. He took a drive in, I took a drive in, and we rode out somewhere and delivered. And then how the first company did it was they would find us a backhaul coming back off the load board, of course, so we wouldn't come back empty, of course. So they would find us a load to come back home. Yeah,
Got you. And this is you and Paul, 2 trucks.
2 trucks.
Right now, as a business, about how much money are you bringing in a week at this time?
As a business with this time, roughly it was anywhere between 2,500 and about 3,500 per truck.
Okay.
For the most part, yeah, it definitely, and most of the time, and probably it fell right around that a little under that $3,000 range most of the time. Because one thing about it, of course, with me at that time, you know, I didn't have any children or anything, so I was able to run, bro. You know, I'm able to get it in. So of course, my settlements were way higher than his, you know, respectively, because I understood, you know, his other obligations and things like that. You know what I'm saying? Plus, at the end of the day, you don't expect no one to put in as much time, you know, for your business. You know what I mean? So
That's right.
For sure, I would probably do myself. Yeah, I was definitely knocking down with this company. I started to finally see that $3,000, little over that $3,000 range. Because with the first company, in order to make $3,000 net, I had to bust my you know what. Like I literally was running all kinds of crazy, you know what I'm saying, just to net that $3,000. And that first company, he would probably only do sometimes maybe around 2,000, you know, net. That's net. So that's why I was a little tough, because of course I got a brand new truck note, you know what I'm saying? That expense $2,500. That was a lot, you know what I'm saying? That payment didn't get comfortable until later down the line when I went independent and got my own authority. You know what I mean? Just due to, I didn't need a brand new truck for hauling port freight. I've never seen no one going in there with a brand new spec, unless they have a company driver model. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, their company driver, the other companies that run the port, they're seeing all the money. They can afford to put a driver in a brand new truck. But one thing about it, you know, when you breaking down the bread, because when you really think about it, you have the customer, right? And then you have the trucking company and the agent. They get their cut, so I'm the last one to eat.
That's right.
Last one. So it made sense why I'm not making what I should be making, right?
No doubt.
Yeah.
So was this the last company that you worked for before you started your own thing?
Nope. So we switched over to one more company, that was by far the best company. Shout out to Kathleen. She was, man, by far, Kathleen didn't play. So we switched over to her company. Again, she was an agent for another company. So she was definitely the last company who I did business with as far as hauling containers. One thing about her, she had to work. So this is the first company where I felt like, yeah, I'm really starting to see some money. You know what I'm saying? Probably at that time, I was definitely hitting $3,500 a week, $4,000 a week. And with her, I actually grew with her. So I went from 2 trucks once we left that second company. And when I leased under her, I bought my 3rd truck. So this is where Paul really played a major part, because when I told him I was ready to expand, he always had a driver for me. So a guy named Tony came on board at this point. Shout out to Tony. Great driver, you know what I'm saying? And at this point, so she kind of opened my eyes to doing rail work. So she had a rail contract at that time, and she was getting rail freight. So you have port freight and you have rail freight. Rail freight, I'm sure like most know, comes in on the train. So for example, Mel, how that works is rail freight pays less because it's less headache, but it's smooth, right? So the good thing about rail freight is already on the chassis. It's basically just like a big drop and hook yard. You know what I'm saying? In Baltimore, you have CSX. In PA, we would go to PA. You have what's called Norfolk Southern, and I loved it because it's less that you have to worry about when you go in that port, right? You know, there's so much to it. You gotta get your box taken off. You sitting in line waiting for that. Yeah. You got to go back around, then pull the box out that you're supposed to take. Then on top of that, you know, you're all trying to do that by a schedule of almost like 5 o'clock, because that's when the port closes, or a little before 5 o'clock. Rail freight is much more open, especially in Pennsylvania. They operate like 24 hours. So you got daytime drivers, nighttime drivers. JB Hunt, I'm sure we all know that company. They do a lot of rail freight. You see the 53 containers?
Yeah.
That's rail freight. You know what I mean? So she had that opportunity. So we was able to kind of add that. I think his first load was an actual rail freight load. And, great driver, man. He came on board and that put me in my third truck. My third truck was a Freightliner Cascadia, which was my first time in being experienced to the DD15s, the Detroit Motors, which ended up being the best truck in my fleet. It was a 2012 Freightliner Cascadia, and I bought that truck when I was with that last port company with her. So she had a operation that was just like no other, bro. She was about her money, you know what I'm saying? Literally was something that was a blessing to me at that time because I was hustling. I was definitely on her top list. I would work day in, day out because it's like, what am I rushing home for? I didn't have nothing to, you know what I'm saying?
That's
so
right.
Yeah, man, I was getting it in.
And you're pulling multiple loads a day, right?
Oh yeah, multiple
How much
loads.
are you doing a day?
How many loads?
Yeah.
Oh shoot. Sometimes it could be she had drop and hook operations, live load operations, but most of the time a lot of drop and hook accounts, right? So she had it kind of sweet, right? So we would actually take sometimes what you would call empty chassis from Baltimore to Harrisburg. So we would get paid for going up to, which is, so most of the people know port work always pays the round trip. Mm-hmm. So here's how her operation was unlike, I'm not going to say any other, but just not that common in trucking for port work. You would get paid the round trip. So only time you typically get paid the round trip is if sometimes when you can find a load where you deliver that load and you reload and bring it back to the port. You're then going to get paid the round trip. But with her operation out of the rail, we would take literally an empty 53-foot chassis that has no container on it. We would take it up to Pennsylvania, drop it at the rail yard, and bring a load back.
Right.
So she's getting paid.
And loading on that chassis.
Exactly. So obviously the chassis didn't pay quite as much, but hey, you're still getting paid for going up.
But you're not just deadheaded.
Exactly, versus the round trip coming back. And fast forward a few months later, it ended up just being a blessing for me as well as my guys, because one thing about me, I always pay fair. So like what I would do is when she had operations like that, I remember I had guys coming in on the weekend just to make that money, bro, because what I would do is I would pay them $250 a round. So you think about it, I would literally give these guys, and they know too, a lot of them, I would give them $250 to go up and come back, and they'll do one more turn. So they're doing 2 turns, made $500 cash.
No doubt.
As a company driver.
Right.
Not responsible for nothing. That's good.
Can't
and
beat
cash.
that.
You're not waiting to get paid. I'm cashing you out as soon as you get done.
Yeah. Nah, that's what's up.
Oh, yeah.
All right, cool. So you stay with her for how long, Kathleen?
I stayed with Kat for probably at least, because I started my authority in 2017. So it probably was almost a year with Kat.
Okay.
Yeah.
And why'd you leave?
It was like I was making the money, but it was still, again, I just realizing I got to work so hard. And the biggest thing about me is I pride myself in like just not trying to, or at that moment, just not really getting too complacent, because I knew it was just so much more money on the table. And I knew my ultimate goal was to get my own authority. So I remember I would talk to her about it. And of course, it's business. I get it. She knows I'm one of her top dogs. Then on top of that, I have 3 drivers. So here's how I expanded. So the 3 drivers I had 3 trucks, but I had 4 drivers, because her operation is so booming. It allowed me to slip seat one of the trucks. So I had an old head guy. I remember she actually found me that driver. I guess she had a contractor, wasn't doing so well, and maybe the truck went down. She ended up telling me about another driver that was looking for work that was already, under her network. So I said, okay, older guy named Al, you know what I'm saying? And he ended up coming under my company, and he was fine with running nights. So I remember it was me, Paul, Tony came on board. The next guy was Corey. Corey was a great driver as well. Shout out to him. Again, Paul brought on Tony. He brought on Corey. And then the third driver, which was Al, the old head Al, he would slip seat with Corey, and Al would work at night. Yeah, so it was definitely a lot. That settlement was definitely, now at this time was definitely hitting that 10,000, right around that $10,000 mark, or at least I know we would gross that for sure running all those trucks. We were definitely grossing, not netting the 10 grand, but we were definitely grossing like a little over 10,000. But the problem with it was I had noticed sometimes was just due to the deductions. It seemed like the deductions at that moment started to really add up, because for a lot of people who don't know, when you buy a truck, of course, you got to get it plated and tagged. But the good thing about when you lease on with certain companies, you can use their tags. So when you buy a truck, depending on what company you go through, you don't have to get your own tag like Landstar's one. You can buy a truck and use Landstar's tags, which is a good way if your money's a little tight. It's a good way to kind of get you on your feet a little faster. You know what I'm saying? So I always utilize companies that had a tag program.
Okay.
Right. So all those deductions, man, it was killing me. It was killing me. And then one thing about it, I realized too, just being honest, the way I was paying the guys the 500, because it was like a 50-50 split I would give them of the net. I really wasn't netting that. So I kind of was taking a little loss at realizing that later, looking at my books, like, okay, I'm giving the guys 500 a day when they kind of do these round trips. I think I might have dropped it down to like 400. I had started doing, realizing it was kind of a little bit of a loss. So it was just like once the settlements would come in and I would just see all the deductions and things that was coming out, I realized by the time I would pay everybody, it was almost like the numbers were, I could do that myself. You know what I'm saying?
Got you.
That's the problem I ran into.
Got you. All right. So in 2017, you decide to get your own authority.
Mm-hmm.
You just said why you left. But
Right.
What's your plan going into this?
Man, like I said, I remember I talked to Kathleen about it. You know, she was at that time, that was the lady who ran the operation. She was just like, oh, you know, if you want to do that, Brock, go ahead. You know, she wasn't too thrilled. She wasn't too thrilled. You know,
She was hurt.
You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, what can she do?
Hey,
you know
man,
what I'm
it is
saying?
what it is. You're enterprising, man.
Exactly.
You know?
So this is what I did. Check this out. When I got my own authority, you know, I did it the smart way, right? And did it within my budget. I took myself out, so my truck, right? And I started just with my truck. Say, hey, let me test the waters first, man. I know this business is not going to be easy. I did hear about when you get a new authority, you can't book loads and things like that. So I said, let me start with myself, not only just for those losses, but just because I knew it would have been crazy expensive if I bring on 3 trucks under a brand new authority. Because when you get your own authority, the biggest thing really is the down payment. A lot of times they want you to put down your 2 months premium up front, because typically when you run an insurance, you pay a 10-month premium because that first initial down payment covers you your last 2 months.
Right.
So I started myself, and of course, just being new, I kind of knew like the local thing wasn't really gonna be able to work out. And then I remember when I started, I didn't have a trailer, so I ended up working with a company out of Aberdeen. Forget the name of it, but I remember partnering with them. So I remember when I sat down with the owner, right? We was talking, you know, cool guy. And he was looking at we was just talking about my operation and what I was looking to do. He was like, you know, you almost be better off leasing under me. And I said to myself, like, yeah, I'm not doing that again, bro. I'm not doing that again. This would have literally been my 4th company. And what I valued at this point was just being independent, right? I value that the most because I knew working with him, I had to have my own tags. So I already got my own tags. So I'm like, no, I don't want to be tied to you, because at the end of the day, if I'm leased to you, I have to, you know, abide by where y'all dispatch me because it's your authority.
That's
so
right.
I said, you know what? Because he had a power only program. A lot of times you'll find that in business when you just get your new authority. Power only program is a great way to get started because, one, you know, you don't have to worry about booking loads through a broker typically, depending on the power only. And if you're doing it solely for one company, it's a great way to let your authority age.
Right.
Right. Because most of the time you need between 6 months to a year before you really able to get going with no restrictions. You're not hearing on the phone, hey, we can't use you, we can't use you, we can't use you. So ended up working with him, and he was like, yeah, you know, you looking at the numbers, you'd probably be better off leasing under my authority. And I said, yeah, nah, I stick to having my own. So ended up doing a couple loads of them. They kind of operated on using dry van, where he had a lot of dedicated accounts. So I would take loads like going down south, North Carolina, and then they would find a backhaul for me to come back off the load board. So I did that for a little minute. It was okay, you know. But once I did that for a little while, I kind of got my money up a little bit. And the next move I made was started my first business relationship with a company called BMO Bank, BMO Transportation. Shout out to them. They Later down the line, fast forward, they end up giving me over $150,000 in credit to use for trailers. So my first trailer I bought from Hale Trailer. And what's crazy is, remember I told you about Hale Transport, right? I found out later, Hale Transport, the owner, that's his uncle. Hale Trailers. You know, not knowing it's a family business, kind of. They kind of keeping it in trucking in different divisions, of course. But yeah, so I went to Hale Trailer over in Curtis Bay, Maryland. And I knew they had drive-in trailers. So I ended up sitting down with one of the sales guys, and I bought a brand new trailer for like $30,000. Yeah, and when I did the finance, and I didn't know anything about BMO transportation, nothing at all. And obviously, Hale, they work with them, so I got introduced to BMO transportation, BMO finance transportation, strictly from making that relationship going in there to Hale Trailer. And they gave me a trailer. I only had to put down about $3,000, I want to say $2 or $3,000. It's only like 10%. And yeah, I remember they pulled it out front for me. You know what I'm saying? I remember pulling there with my trailer. I still got the picture on my phone to this day. And what's crazy was, fast forward 5 years later, or not even 5, 2, 3 years later, I had 5 trailers I bought from them, man. All from BMO Transportation Bank, $30,000 a piece. They gave me $150K.
Yeah.
You know, spread out through a couple years buying trailers. So I started with myself. Bought that trailer. I was over the road for a short period of time, right, with my own authority. So I still got my other 2 trucks leased under Kathleen, still doing port work. Because I'm still trying to, you know, put things together. I'm experiencing. So now I'm actually in the real freight world, booking loads on the load board and things like that. So I'm experiencing all the things I heard. You know, the biggest thing is when you call into a broker, they don't hear. The first question they ask you, what's your MC? What's your MC? You learn your MC number within the first 2 calls, you know, of getting your authority. And because that's they want to pull you up, right? They want to see who you are, looking at your safety rating, how long you've been in business, are you set up with them? They looking at so many different things to determine if they can even work with you. So that was the first thing I experienced. And a lot of lows, man. The biggest thing of everyone who has an authority or even had an authority would tell you the biggest hurt that you feel is when you give them your MC number. You see the load on the board, and some people will post the rate, some people wouldn't post the rate. Some people would, and some rates were really good rates. So you call in on it already knowing you're willing to book it for that rate. You give them that MC number, and they say the worst thing ever, Mel.
Can't work with you.
We cannot use you. You are too new. Call us back when you get 6 months. Call us back when you get a year. Click. Man, I'm trying to tell you that feeling.
Smiling down.
I remember one time it hurt so bad, man. I'm not gonna lie. I called my buddy one time and asked him. I said, "Bro, would you mind just booking this load?" Of course, we're not supposed to do this, but I remember I asked him. I was like, "Would you mind just booking this load? I really need this load to get back home." You know what I'm saying, man? It was tough. Everyone in the game has experienced that right there.
Right.
If you're new, it's just bound to happen. Unless you were doing a power-only program until your authority age, you're going to experience a no on the phone.
Right.
A lot of no's.
So you have 2 trucks still at the...
3 trucks.
3 trucks with Kathleen?
Yeah, well, 2 trucks. I'm sorry. 2 trucks at Kathleen, one under my authority.
You under your authority, you doing your thing. All right. So you're booking off the load board.
Booking off the board.
And like, what do you find? And you like, are you OTR at this time?
Yeah,
like,
so I'm OTR. I didn't. So 2017, the first like 6 some months, I was OTR. The next guy that ended up coming under my wing, my guy Vic. Shout out to him. He actually, he's an old childhood friend, right? So when he came on, I can't remember. I think he might have just reached out to me. I can't remember how it went and told me he got a CDL. So one thing about me, I didn't do new drivers. Like I can't. Unfortunately, I would love to help you out, bro, but I can't take that risk, man. I'm a new business. That's what I would tell people all the time. Like, I'm a new business. Right. I understand you're going to make mistakes. However, these big Fortune 500 companies, that's why they pay you so low, because they know you're going to make mistakes. But with a small company, not even just typically for me as well, a lot of times just insurance reasons as well. A lot of insurance companies won't take new drivers. So he ended up getting his CDL, man, and some kind of way we reconnected. And I was over the road at the time, and I said, you know what? Something just, I don't know what it was. Maybe I always, you know, just had a good, we always had a good relationship, but something just, I don't know what it was. Something just, because it's not like I didn't need them, but it was just more so I just wanted to help them. I think that's definitely what it was. I love seeing people, get their CDL and just knowing I could be a part of his success.
Right.
Knowing he was a good guy, I took a shot with him. And the main reason I know it worked out because at the time I was over the road and I didn't buy a truck for him. We drove the same truck. So I trained him and was paying him, to literally drive the same truck. So it's kind of an expense on my end because, it's not like he's in his own truck bringing in his own revenue. I'm literally taking money off of my plate to give it to him just so I could train him. But it was I must say it was a great investment because he was a natural, bro. He literally got in that truck. I didn't have to show him too much and nothing. He got the shifting down, everything he got down. Only thing we really had to work on was the backing. But the backing was that was the least of my worries because obviously I'm in a truck. I can always make sure that, I'm making sure that, he's doing a good job. Or even if I got to back in the trailer, the biggest thing for me while we were doing it was the driving. Because what happened was we ended up finding this great opportunity where through Cardinal, I used to work with a company called Cardinal Logistics. And they had an opportunity where they had a contract with the Potato Martin's bread. Mm-hmm. So how that worked was it was a team lane going from Chambersburg, Pennsylvania, down to Valdosta, Georgia. So it was going from one Martin's warehouse to the other warehouse, transporting that bread. And it was a team lane, so you needed 2 drivers. So guess what? By me having him at the time and me finding that opportunity off the low board, that was one of my first dedicated little lanes. We did it every week. I think it paid they ended up increasing the rate, right? So it ended up paying at the time, I think it was $2,400 when I first started doing it. But here's the crazy part. So we did it such a great job, doing that lane. It was only once a week, so it wasn't like an everyday thing. I wish. But wasn't an everyday thing. It was just something that we did. So I had Victor, I had him coming in from Wednesday to Friday, right? He didn't stay out with me the whole week because obviously I can only afford to pay him so much because he's working with me.
Right.
So of course I didn't want to do him like these other companies where, bro, you got to be with me all week. He could do what he needed to do Monday through Tuesday, and he would just work with me from Wednesday to Friday morning because a lot of times I'd drop him back off Friday morning. And we would go up Wednesday, or it might have been Tuesday night, one of the two. We go up, grab the bread, and I run my shift sometimes first. He run his shift, and we would knock that out. But the crazy part was when I really started to see how much money was really in these loads. It's the crazy part. She ended up sending me an email, forwarding me an email where the customer was giving my company a compliment on how well we were doing. Little did she know, and I know little did she know, of course, me, who's not gonna look. I see previous emails.
Right, you go up that whole thread.
I'm like, let's just see what they talking about.
Right.
So I go through the previous emails. I'm looking, right. So keep in mind, we was only getting 20, 24, 2,500, no more than 2,600 for the lane. It was 800 miles. So we was getting me a little over $3 a mile. I'm looking in the emails and I see the customer saying to her, hey, so the 4,400, the 4,400, is that rate okay? That's basically what they were saying. Is is that okay to get this done?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And they ended up giving me a rate increase, but of course, there's nothing compared to that.
Right.
I might have got $200-$300 rate increase. So that was the first thing that opened my eyes to see, man. Especially, rates pay good regardless. But when you get into specialized things like team where you need 2 drivers,
team
that's
jobs are hard to find. You can't find a good team.
Right. And customers understand that's money.
Yeah.
The truck's always running, that's money. 2 drivers in the truck, that's money. So it's gonna pay.
For sure.
So when you do the math on that, it was 800 miles. They're getting $4,400. You know what I'm saying? Giving me almost half of that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But the great thing about it, because one thing I always say is I don't try to focus on anybody else's plate. Because the one thing about it is always in business, period, not even just in trucking, it's always going to be people making money off you.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? We need $100,000 for a reason. Clearly, these loads are moving. The value of them is up to $100,000. So I never focused on that, right? I always just kind of focused, but I never turned a blind eye either. just understanding, hey, it is more money out here.
Right. Let you know the opportunity that's out there.
Exactly.
So how long do you run that team?
So we didn't
And
do that.
that's not all you're doing, right? So you're just doing that.
Just doing it because I still just had the one truck under my authority.
Okay, got you. So you just running
still
that
got
team
them
lane?
lease on.
Okay.
Exactly. So I only did that for some months. No more, definitely wasn't a year. I say maybe like 5-6 months. But what I've
But it was
started,
dedicated.
Yeah, it was dedicated. Once a week, just
Okay.
not every day. I wish it was, but so I would mix that in with finding other lanes, right? So we did that for a little bit. But one thing I just realized with doing that lane, it was starting to kind of slow down, right? And it wasn't, really like sometimes it would be low, sometimes it kind of wouldn't be low. So I said, you know what, man. Once that happened, I said, and then I just realized the toll that I was experiencing on not being home every day, right? And just being gone, sacrificing so much. And I just realized, I said, you know what, I at this point, I just have to find something else, find an operation that I could do. It's like, what can I do where I can make the money but still get home, right? You know what I'm saying? So once that lane ended up pretty much not being there anymore. We also did a lot of other business with her as well too. They would have power only lanes. So fast forward when you factor in, I stopped doing that and I kind of pieced together because nobody gave me the game on really like the local thing. I did it myself. So I came up with the formula, right? So the formula is this. I said, okay, if a truck can make $1,000, $1,200 in a day with one load, how can I do that locally? So I say, you know what, I think I got it. So what you do is if I take a load from here to Richmond paying, let's say $600, long as I could get something back paying $600 as well, that's $1,200 in a day, right? So I say, you know what? So the thing about it is when you drop that, so if you follow me, right, you take the $600 down to Richmond, you're gonna deliver that load. You're gonna find a backhaul that's gonna deliver the next morning. So if you compare a local operation to an over-the-road operation, let's say one guy goes 600 miles, paying $2 a mile, pays $1,200, right? He drops his load off that next morning, 8 a.m. Only difference between me running local, I'm doing the same revenue, but I'm doing it with 2 loads. So I'm going to go down to Richmond, only 130, 140 miles, right? So the biggest thing, as we know in trucking, is your fuel. So off the rip, I'm doing half your fuel because I'm doing only half the miles because it's 140, 150 down, 150 back. So I'm only doing 300 miles for that same $1,200 because I'm going to go down to Richmond, deliver my load straight through. Got to get it straight through. Bring a backhaul back the same day, but of course it's not going to deliver to the next morning. So when you factor in that over-the-road truck, wherever he's out 600 miles away, he's delivering his load for $1,200. I'm delivering my load for $600, but I got 2 $600 loads, which still equals the same amount of revenue, but half the miles, bro. Right. And I'm home every day. And the biggest thing, as we know in trucking, is your expenses, your fuel. I'm burning half. I'm doing half, the miles. So I'm not spending nowhere near as much in fuel as you. My maintenance isn't as much as you because you're putting so much more wear and tear on your trucks. So once I figured that out, oh man, it was history. Once I figured that out, now it's time to bring the gang on and have them come on and we just run it up.
But how'd you find those opportunities?
Off the load boards, right? Okay. So the biggest lanes that I would do would be from Maryland to like Jersey. I hated Jersey in a sense because of the tolls. We racked up a crazy amount of money in tolls. So the rates just always had to make sense. Like sometimes you could get $700, sometimes $800 just to go to Jersey. So some days I would do $1,300, $1,400, as much as $1,500 on a round trip to Jersey, right? So pretty much this is the game, right? This is literally $1 million worth of game right here for people who don't know. So what you do is you're going to always be loaded. You always typically want to stay loaded because that load that you drop that morning is your revenue for the previous day, right? So if you follow me on that Richmond trip, you go down for $600, straight through, pick that up first thing that morning, deliver it straight through. Long as you get that backhaul to bring you back, drop the next morning, that's your revenue for Monday.
Right.
Now we're on Tuesday. Over. Right. Now we're on Tuesday. So now when you get empty, it's important that you get empty as early as possible because guess what? You need to run another straight through.
Right.
Whether it's going Richmond again, whether you're going to Jersey again, you need a straight through. Drop the straight through off, do it again. Grab a backhaul, bring you back to drop Wednesday morning. That's Tuesday's revenue. Now, the process with doing this, what I realized after doing it successful for so many years, you're gonna run into 1 or 2 days out the week where it doesn't work for you to get a straight through off, which is fine. Because think about it, as long as you're averaging minimum $1,200 a day, it's okay where at least 1 or 2 days out the week where you can drop a load off. It's nothing going straight through. Or the biggest thing that I experienced, the driver gets held up. So the biggest problem I ran into of running a local operation, I'm hitting on door 51 over the road, over the road drivers on door 52. Guess what? He can sit there all day because he only run one load a day. So with me, I gotta move. We gotta get out of there. So I found myself spending a lot of money, which it was worth it to pay the warehouse. Hey, can I get this 100? I remember one time I paid as much as $100 to get unloaded. You know what I'm saying? Because time is money for us.
The process.
We can't sit like an over-the-road driver. Yeah, we look like you. We have this sleeper truck because I always bought sleeper trucks just due to the comfortability for the driver. Because you never know when you are sitting, who wants to sit in a day cab when you can take a nap? Right. Safety reasons. Probably one of the reasons today where I've never dealt with a rollover or anything. Besides having good drivers, of course, they were able to get their rest. Yeah. When they were sitting on that dock and not being uncomfortable in a day cab, right?
And you started over the road anyway, so
yeah, exactly. So there's going to be at least one or two times during that week where you're able to drop that load the next morning, but you're not going to find a straight through. You're going to find a load to bring. You always find a load to bring the driver back home, but it might not drop to that next morning. So, for example, if you follow me, when you drop that load off, let's say the driver gets there 7, 8 in the morning. Sometimes he might not get empty until noon. They held him up 4 hours. Now, if you're over the road, that's okay. You can still find a load paying $2,000 that'll drop the next day. But when you're local, that's kind of a bummer because now I can't get him something straight through because I need to get him something straight through and get him a backhaul, right? So because I can't get him something straight through, he has to settle for $600, $700, sometimes even $800 of a load that's going to come back home and drop the next day. So pretty much I literally just ran trucks from Maryland to VA and Maryland to Jersey. We didn't really touch New York, anything like that. But those are my hot lanes as well as local lanes. So like, for example, sometimes locally what you'll do is, again, $1 million worth of game right here. What you'll do locally is when you come back home to Maryland, driver obviously goes home that night, because let's say if he went to Jersey first thing that morning to drop one off, he gets a backhaul coming straight through, or if it didn't come straight through, basically whenever he delivers in Maryland, sometimes what I would do, I wouldn't always look for a load going to Jersey or Virginia. Sometimes I'll look for a local lane, Maryland to Maryland. Sometimes I could get those for $400, $500, sometimes $600, which is now great because we're not burning no fuel. So I get a local lane sometimes, let's say $500. He drops that off Maryland to Maryland. Then I had a few little dedicated lanes I built up where he may go get a load of paper out of Ball Term. Grab that load. I got to the point where Ball Term was almost dedicated almost kind of every day. That was definitely one of my biggest customers using that broker, where we would go into Ball Term, which is rolls of paper that they use for so many different things. And we would take it different places like Hazleton, PA, Harrisburg, PA, Wilkes-Barre, PA, different places like that where we would take those rolls of paper to. So a lot of times when you do that Maryland to Maryland, right, if you follow me, $600, that counts as revenue for that day. And then he'll leave there and go to Ball Term, get his load going to PA, but that's not going to drop to the next morning. So when he delivers that backhaul in his home state, that's revenue for the previous day that morning. He does the Maryland to Maryland for $600, then goes and gets the Ball Term for, let's just say, $700, but he's not going to drop that to the next morning. So the great thing of the driver is he's not getting burnt out. He stayed in Maryland that day. You following me? Because when he dropped off that morning, he got up, got to the truck 6, 7 a.m. to drop in Maryland because he just came from Jersey. That ends the revenue for the previous day, does the $600 load straight through, goes to get the $700 load that's going to drop the next morning, so he's not getting too burnt out. You know what I'm saying? And staying in Maryland, some days you might log 75 miles in a day. You ain't going nowhere.
Yeah.
That's the game right there. So
Y'all
you
got
literally,
that? Y'all got that, everybody? Pause this video right
yeah,
now.
yeah, that's the
rewind
game
back
right there.
about 5 minutes and
if you
watch that
follow
again.
that formula, is no reason where you should do minimum 5,000. You know, in a bad market with that formula. If you really got it down to a T and you build some dedicated lanes, you'll hit 7 easy, because if you're averaging $1,500, $1,200, $1,300 a day, 5 days a week, that goes $6-7 grand right there.
Yeah. Okay. And you master this formula.
Master the formula, bro.
And that's how you pretty much start to kind of build your
Exactly
business
right.
off
So
of that.
once we met and we sat down on the first time, that's literally what I was doing for sure. So COVID didn't, just so people know, COVID, that was an enhancement. That wasn't how I started really seeing money. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because I started my authority in 17.
You started before.
I started running this operation probably end of 17, early 18.
Right.
I was already had the trucks, had the 3 trucks. 18, I bought my 4th truck, which the 4th driver was actually, well, no, so Al, so the 4th truck was Al, because it was me, and then I had Tony, and then Paul, of course, as well as Corey, and then Al. So Victor ended up doing his own thing. You know what I mean? Once we end up splitting as far as that operation for the team operation, right? So at that moment, I took my 3 trucks and literally started running just like this. And then there was another guy so my guy Paul, man, again, Paul, Paul's the guy, man. That's one thing I cannot take from that guy, man. Every time I needed a driver, he had somebody. So there was another driver, which we call Man. He called a Man, light-skinned guy, man. You know y'all light-skinned guys, y'all.
Where's this going?
What kind of name is Man? You know what I'm saying? That was his nickname, Man. But hey,
I actually know a man who's a light-skinned guy too.
Great driver as well. I remember we talked in the DM, me and Man, and
pause.
Pause for real. His real name is Will. His real name is Will. I'm gonna call him Will.
I think what Man is like usually when you're a kid, a lot of times like your grandmother or like your mom call you Man, like man or something like that.
Light skin.
And these people they keep these names a little longer than they supposed to.
Light skin.
I don't think it has anything to do with being light skinned. I don't see a correlation between light skin and man.
He was a pretty boy, man.
Okay.
If you ask me, you know what I'm saying, Pauls, he looked like he was a model. Like, he driving trucks, bro.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? But great driver. I remember he told me about him. We talking in the DM. Let me tell you another reason why there's a light skin thing.
Okay.
Because it's coming back vividly as we're talking, right? Let me give you another light skin thing. We talking in the DM, so I say to him, yeah, bro, Paul was telling me about you, so how much you want? You know, I knew what I paid the other driver. I just wanted to see, and the reason why I do this is because I always want to make sure I'm a good fit for you. Like, I don't want to, one thing about me, I always like asking drivers, how much are you making now? How much are you looking to make? Because I'm not just going to bring you on knowing that we're not a good fit, or knowing that you're asking me for something I know I can't do. Right. I'm not just thinking about myself. I want to make sure I'm providing an opportunity that's going to work for you and that's going to work for me. So I remember asking, I'm like, bro, how much you want? He comes back and says, no less than $1,800 a week. I said, yeah. Nah. This ain't gonna work. But you know what I'm saying? I get it. You know,
so that's a light skin thing too. Asking for
that probably,
yeah.
Right. But I ain't gonna say no. Okay. That's a driver thing, because of course they think we getting rich. They're gonna ask for what they feel as though they deserve. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
But nah, man. All jokes aside, he ended up being a great driver as well too. He came on board. We did some business, and That was for sure. That was good.
Okay. All right. So at the peak of your business at that time, because we're kind of like getting to when we first met. At this point, right?
Like we definitely at the point.
This is around the point when we met.
This is like 2021 now.
Okay.
Yeah.
What type of revenue is the company bringing in? What's the company look like? How many trucks? All that good stuff.
So at 4 trucks was my peak. We were doing my monthly statements. I remember looking $80K. We were bringing in some good bread. At peak, we were definitely around. Now I'm really starting to see, and the great thing about it at the time was, we're using factoring companies, so I'm getting paid daily.
Right.
I'm rolling in the dough, bro, every day. So I remember one, for example, we used to do this one lane, right, where it was power only, and it was a weekend lane. So the biggest thing that I always didn't like about my operation, I had a hard time finding weekend work, consistent weekend work. But every once in a while, this company called Bozell, they did like reefer freight, right? So obviously we didn't have any reefers, but they would reach out to us when they had a power only opportunity, which was driving. And what that was moving sugar from Domino Sugar in Baltimore to the warehouse. Because basically how it worked was there's a company called Bob's Transport. They had the contract that would move the sugar from one warehouse to their warehouse. Because you got to think, obviously, we all know who Domino Sugar is, one of the biggest sugar companies. So they operate on a high scale. So where you got to think, as they're making the product, they have their own warehouse, but their warehouse can only fit so much. So every day they literally, I'm not sure the volume, but I would imagine at least 20, 30 loads, probably more
Trail
than that.
loads of sugar going over to another warehouse.
Exactly. So on the weekend, I guess maybe from Bob's, maybe not having enough drivers, enough capacity. Either way, it was a blessing. They would reach out to Bozell. I had the relationship with Bozell, one of their carriers. They would reach out to me and they would pay us to do power only, moving those trailers. So if we're loaded on the weekend, it didn't matter. That's the great thing about power only, utilizing other customers' trailers. Because if we're loaded over the weekend for Monday deliveries, guess what? We can unhook those trailers and go run it up with power only.
On the shuttle.
And that's what we did. You know, Paul was the breadwinner on that. Paul, he was able to just Paul's a smooth guy when it comes to driving, man. He for sure, I give him that. And because I paid him per load.
Okay.
When they did that. So at the time, I think I might have was getting like two, because I know they altered the rate. So I don't quite remember the rates altogether, but I know it's probably around, I know it's a little under 300 a load. So I remember days where for sure I would give him cash, because one thing, my incentive was, you know, as a business owner, you got to know, like, okay, if I need a driver to do something outside of their norm, how can I incentivize them working, right? And a lot of times, the people I would bring on part-time as well as over the weekend, the biggest incentive is, bro, I'm going to pay you today. You know what I'm saying? You ain't waiting to get paid. You know what I'm saying?
Money
so
talks.
I remember days where, for sure, you could easily make, I think Paul would knock down at least $500, $600 to him, you know, just for doing those loads.
Yeah. And sometimes it's just getting the work done, right?
Yeah,
it's like
for
you might
sure.
even take the loss just to get the work done, to keep the customer happy.
Exactly.
Because there's always going to be another opportunity as long as you get it done.
Exactly, for sure.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. So everything's looking up. Everything
up.
is looking bright.
Looking good, bro.
Everybody is well.
Yep.
So tell me what happens after
Okay.
that. So let's not say after. Let's just say kind of going into, I guess we met around 2021, 2022. Then this industry starts to change a bit.
Yeah, it did. And right before it changed, when things were still going pretty good, like I said, Cardinal, we did a lot of other power only for them, so that ended up being a blessing. So at that time, what happened next was, he actually wanted to do his own thing, right? So me and Man, we developed a good relationship. We were talking and things like that. So Man, he actually wanted his own truck, right? So I was like, okay. All right, so I ended up helping him get his own truck, right? So I helped him get his own truck, and after he bought his own truck, turns out later that the truck ended up kind of being like a lemon, right? So at that time, you know, when me and him, we were doing a little business. At that moment, what I started to experience then was just kind of focusing on so much of building the business and things like that. Me and Paul, we kind of had a disconnect, right? You know, a lot of things he kind of felt a little bit different on when it comes to a lot of things like pay and things like that, which I could understand at that moment. You know, I'm not really sitting down so much to really think about, okay, what is it that, you know, I could do to maybe help him or, you know, help him more, you know what I'm saying, than what I'm already giving him or things like that. So when he had found out that, you know, his buddy ended up getting a truck, you know what I'm saying, which we ended up having a conversation about, you know, he kind of felt some kind of way. And I was just like, okay, you know what I'm saying, when he ended up getting a truck. And fast forward later, once we had that conversation, we also had a conversation about like pay and things like that. And I was like, you know, I had to really sit down and just reevaluate some things as me and him talked. And I was like, you know what, you're right, bro. You have been with me since day one. You know, your compensation, of course, should be a lot different than what everyone else getting, because at the end of the day, you provided all these drivers. So that moment right then and there, we changed the pay up. We restructured the pay. he got paid more than what, of course, everyone else was getting, which he definitely deserved that.
Right.
So that was something that definitely
Like a lead driver.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. So we had that conversation, and after that, we were doing so well with just business at that moment. I remember weekends alone, man, between the freight that we were delivering on Monday and that power only Domino sugar, I'm doing 10,000 factored on a Monday.
Yeah.
That one day, 10 grand hit my account, right?
Yeah.
So as I'm experiencing that, I said to myself, you know what? It's time for me to go ahead and put Paul in his own position, right? Because I helped this buddy get a truck, right? But I didn't help him financially. Like all I did was I just signed my name on the line so that he could get a truck, right? But Paul was the first one who actually helped financially. So I remember I went live one day. He had no idea, bro. Literally went live one day, and I was like, yeah, bro, let's go live. He had no idea what I was doing. And I said, just talking to him in the beginning, I said, so look, man, I remember my words exactly. I said, the time has come for us to literally separate, bro. You've been a blessing to me. You helped my business from the beginning of time. It's time for you to separate, bro. It's time for you to take care of your family independently and everything like that. So what I'm going to do is literally tomorrow, I'm putting a down payment on your truck. We're going to fly to Indiana, and we're going to go get you a truck, bro. He damn near was in tears. And it was such a good feeling, man, because
That's
one thing
what's
as an entrepreneur, I feel like every entrepreneur who's in that position to bless somebody will understand how it feels like to take care of somebody else, especially somebody that helped get you in this position. Hands down, that was one of the most best feelings of my entrepreneur journey, just seeing his face light up, knowing that I was going to take care of that for him, you know what I'm saying, and help him get, literally buy him a truck, you know what I mean? And we flew together. He could have went by himself. Nah, we flew together. I think that might have been his first flight too, if I'm mistaken, because my first flight was actually buying my fourth truck when I flew to Indiana to pick one up. And yeah, man, that was, oh man, it's crazy because when I think about it, it's just like, that's literally one of the reasons we do it for is to help other people. So I was fortunate enough to able to do that for him. We flew to Indiana. He bought a gold Freightliner Cascadia, picked this truck up, and we drove it back, man, no issues. And yeah, I helped, I put him on, literally put him on. He ran under my authority and for a little bit. But of course I told him, like, bro, you should get your own authority. So he ran under my authority for a little bit, and then eventually he ended up getting his own.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
How'd you know what kind of truck he wanted? Did y'all talk about it
previously?
Yeah,
we did.
Okay.
Yeah, we definitely did. I was telling him, but of course he could see from what the equipment I had. I said, bro, that Cascadia beast.
Yeah.
He's seen, because his Kenworth that he was driving, none but headaches, man.
Yeah.
So I told him, like, bro, I ain't gonna lie, that you should get a Freightliner Cascadia. So that's what we put the down payment on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what's up.
Oh yeah.
That's dope.
For sure.
All right. So tell me, man, like we kind of talked about the industry starts changing a bit. The tide starts changing. When did you know that things were different?
So when I experienced kind of things were a little different was right when one of my customers, so I had a sweet lane that I used to do for all my Maryland people. They know where Columbia, Maryland is, and I would take it to Jessup, Maryland. Literally 3 miles, bro. They would pay me $200 per load, but so this was my first real dedicated contract, like every day, was from Columbia to Jessup. You cannot ask for a better contract than this, because this is literally 3 miles.
Can't beat
I
it.
was doing it with a broker at first, but eventually they ended up wanting to part ways with the broker and just deal with me directly, right?
Okay.
So we did that. I kind of kept my rate the same because I was just happy to know, hey, I got a direct relationship right here, right?
Right.
So they kept my rate the same, and they would pay me $200 a load. But here's the thing. I was doing 8 loads a day. How much money is that, man?
That's a lot of money.
$1,600.
Yeah, I'll take it. I ain't doing
I ain't going though. Yeah. For sure. Hey, look, that man. Yeah, $1,600 a day, bro.
Take it.
You know what I'm saying? I'll take it, man.
And you doing what, under 100 miles?
A week. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It's
yeah,
crazy.
under 100 miles a week, man.
That's
but
crazy.
So that was a huge blessing. Now the only downside, just being all the way transparent, the only downside to this was, even though I'm knocking down $1,600 a day, just me, I was pretty much out there all day and night because how it works was it was gel packs that they make. So the gel packs, what they do is while the volume is so high as well, they use the gel packs for a company called Freshly that went out of business. They use the gel packs and put that in the food, like food that you can order online. You'll always have the gel packs that come in to keep it cold.
Keep it cold. Yep.
So my customer made those gel packs. They put it in dry van trailers, surprisingly. They put it in dry van trailers and sent it to the warehouse, the freezer warehouse, so it could freeze. Sat there for a week. Another company ships it out and takes it directly to Freshly. So the whole process was literally over like a week's process before it actually gets to where it's going. But it was a huge, huge blessing for me. Just the only downside with it was it's a day and night operation. So I didn't hire another driver or anything like that. I pretty much took care of myself because I had actually lived in Jessup. So it was close to home. I could stop to home, things like that. So for me, it was, even though I'm working all day and night pretty much, because I'm constantly just sitting there waiting. As it's actually pretty cool just knowing everything that warehouse made went on my trailer. There's not too many opportunities that you'll have where you're the only carrier that pulls into this dock. Besides the carriers that come and deliver the product that they need to make their
gel pack?
boxes, Gaylord boxes, the actual empty pouches. Besides those, I'm literally the only carrier pulling out of here, bro. Ain't nobody else.
And where'd you find them, on the board too?
I found them on the board because I was going through the broker first. Gotcha. Everything I found. I got a few other direct shippers I found, mail,
build relationships,
telecommunication direct shipper. I found them on the board.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it was great at the time, man. And it was a huge, huge blessing. But for sure, I was definitely working for the money because I would literally work from sun up to sundown. Sometimes I remember dropping my last load at midnight, my 8th load at midnight. But eventually what happened was volume ended up slowing down, right? So I was starting to notice that where sometimes it wouldn't make sense. So sometimes I went from 8 to 6. I'm not charging a customer a cancellation fee or nothing like that, even though I'm sitting around. That I start to experience that. And the good thing I'll also say just about building a relationship, I tell you something else that was great for my company as well. I remember one of my part-time guys, right? Shout out to Nolan. He was one of my other part-time guys, right? So when Nolan came and he worked for me, he would work for me whenever he would get off. Nolan, I ain't gonna lie, man. Nolan must have bumped his head on something. Nolan might have had a little, I ain't gonna say a little henny, but Nolan might have bumped his head or something. You know what I'm saying? Because what Nolan did was he took a turn going into the warehouse, and I remember it was like a dip in the road when you go into that warehouse, right? He took it too fast, bro. You remember that? You remember that moment where on Friday where Pinky hopped out and he said to him, "Hey man, you hit them corners too fast. You need to slow this, down." You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So literally, it was kind of like that moment because he took a turn too fast with the trailer, shifted the whole load, bro. Whole load trash. Driver error. They could have gave me a claim for that whole load. Whatever that load pays them, they could have did that, bro. But the relationship that I had built with Doug, who was the manager, the head guy manager at that time, and it was crazy because I remember he showed me the email. They said in emails, how can we recoup this from the carrier? Never charged me.
Wow.
Never charged me. Something that's kind of unheard of. Never charged me for that load. And the whole load, and keep in mind, you got to think about the loss there, the financial loss. They had to have the warehouse stop what they was doing to help, because obviously they got to unload all that, throw it away. Yeah. So you got the time there, labor time there. It literally probably took a whole dumpster plus more throwing all that product out because nothing was salvageable. Those bags, they're delicate. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's nothing but gel oozing out. Yeah, bro. I remember that, man. Literally could have been a claim to my company. It could have been debt that they put on my loads or anything. Hey, you owe us X amount. Right. We can't pay you until you you know what I'm saying? Nothing. For sure. Not one penny he charged me.
For sure.
Yeah. So that happened, and as time went on from there, just the volume just kind of just slowly start going down. So out of nowhere, basically, from that time, I had a few other guys came on as well. I had my fair share of drivers. My guy Tyler came on during after me and you sat down. Shout out to him, another great driver. My guy Blue came on. Shout out to him. another great driver as well. He came on board as well too. He's doing real well right now. Shout out to Blue. When Blue came on, he told me he had over a heavy haul experience, and he told me, "Hey, look, this is what I want to do. I'm gonna get my money up." So I watch him work for me, leave me, go work for another company, and literally keep focus of his dream and get in the heavy haul. Now he has an RGN trailer doing his thing, hauling oversized loads.
That's
yeah.
what's up.
Yeah, so definitely shout out to Blue. But as the time went on, it just freight just with that dedicated particular lane just started kind of going downhill. I'm not really experiencing anything on the low board side yet, but once that went downhill and it got to the point where it went from 8 loads a day to like 2 loads a day, right? So that's a huge financial loss.
For sure.
$1,600 to only about $200, $400 a day. And at this point, I started to become hands off, so I wasn't driving. So I got drivers sitting there all day to do 2 loads, even 3 loads, bro. $600 is not a lot of money a day if you're paying a driver $300 a day.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So
what's your customer telling you?
Man, just they a lot of the times it was due to their customer not needing as many gel packs. So that was one reason why they scaled back. Well, that really was the reason. Besides production issues a little bit, sometimes would delay things, but for sure from 8 loads to 2 loads was because their customer didn't need much. And when you really think about it now, it makes sense because eventually they went out of business. So when they went out of business, right, boom, that operation gets done immediately. Because think about it. Since I'm the only warehouse, the only carrier that pulls out of this warehouse, that's their only customer.
Right.
So when they made an announcement that Freshly was going out of business, they shut doors immediately. You know what I'm saying? So that was the end of that. And at the time, to be honest with you, I wasn't even mad because it was starting to become a loss for me. So I'm like, you know what? I'll just go back to the drawing board. I had now grown to 7 trailers, right? So I had 5 that I bought from Hale and 2 more that I'm leasing, that I'm renting. So I was utilizing 7 trailers. I had at the peak of my operation, I was using 4 of those 7 trailers just for that account for 8 loads a day because I would use 4 trailers at one point. Because sometimes the biggest thing was, and this is the beauty of having the trailers, they didn't unload fast at all at the receiver. So by me using 4 of my trailers for this operation, and I had 3 more that the other 3 trucks would use, it allowed me to have all of those trailers on the door at the receiver, and they hadn't touched none. Guess what? I'm going home. My job's done. I did all of the loads. If I only had 2 trailers, I would have been SOL because I got to wait to get one of them unloaded to go back to the customer. Right. So that's one thing for sure. Having that trailer pool as you grow your operation, all that does besides help you, that's just a peace of mind for the customer because if you're running into any delays getting empty, hey, it doesn't matter if you got the trailers.
Yeah.
Got
you. So you lose that customer.
So I'm back at the drawing board now, but I'm kind of happy because I'm like, they were starting to become a financial loss, like I said. So I said, you know what, man, it's cool. I'll find another dedicated opportunity, hopefully a drop trailer opportunity because I have 7 trailers that I don't. I have 7 trailers, 4 trailers that I really don't need nothing, but only one of them now that I'm back to losing this account. So I got 3 extra trailers just sitting now.
Right.
So I start to kind of get back on the boards a little bit more, and it was just like everything went downhill. This is now the beginning of like around like 2023 or into 2022, I'll say was when they went out of business. Okay. So we're going into 2023, and it's like, man, I start to feel it then. Definitely the beginning of 2023. It's like I get on the board, it's no work. Like I would thought something was wrong with the app, and that's why they do say you want to not put all your eggs in one basket and you really focus on getting off that load board. It really is so important because you got to think just because there's no load on that on the load board, freight is still getting moved. That's right. Carriers are still making money. There's just I always say the load board is just scraps. It's money in scraps though. It's money in that these are the loads that there's no dedicated carrier, no dedicated driver on these loads. So that's where they go. That's why they say, you really only do want to use a load board for a backhaul. You get what I'm saying? So At that time, man, it's starting to get a little tough now because now it's like, oh my goodness, this was the start of the downfall. Like I'm taking losses now because there's no work. I still had a few other dedicated lanes. Like I got a customer up in Hunt Valley, man, and they do telecommunication work. Hands down, bro. From the moment I started my authority and I found them off the low board, I still work with them to this day. Literally one of the only customers, besides a male customer as well, where those are the only two customers I still work with from the beginning of time. And my male customer, man, I feel like we kind of got a almost a close relationship, almost like just a emotional relationship as well, because we were working with them during COVID,
Okay.
delivering.
Y'all went through it together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'll say no.
Trauma
I'm sure they went through their own struggles, but I'm gonna talk about my struggles. My struggles was literally, for example, paying a driver a whole day to sit at the post office because during COVID and everything going on, they couldn't receive the freight. They didn't have enough manpower to receive the freight, due to their workforce. And the downside about my mail was, I know people may think, well, it's mail, they got to receive it. No, my mail was junk mail, bro. That's not a priority.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? The priority is your real mail. My mail, junk mail, they look at that and go, all right, go somewhere. We got to take care of the real mail first. So there were literally days, right, where I would have a driver sit at like Baltimore on Fayette Street. We deliver there every week. Sit there the whole shift. I remember him calling me, bro, they still ain't touched me. You still want me to sit here? They still ain't touched me. You still want me to sit here? And yeah, they would pay me just enough money to really pay the driver. So I'm really at a loss because the truck's not making no money. So that's why I say it's an emotional relationship with them for sure.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And just watching the race drop over time, man. Like I remember one lane, that particular lane was Baltimore and Linthicum. That lane alone used to pay me like $600 on a 2-stop. Now it's down to like $425. So over time, just rates and everything just going downhill. I start to experience, Paul got his own truck. Tony, he ended up leaving, going to a different company. Corey ended up getting his own truck. Of course, my guy Blue, he ended up leaving and going in. At that point, I don't think he got his own truck then. I think he might have went with another carrier at that time, and it was crazy because I never really had to lay anybody off. It's just they just kind of just ventured out for their own reasons, which I respected. Like Tyler, he ended up having a child, and he ended up needing a more consistent schedule. You know what I'm saying? So he ended up leaving for that. So it literally came down to like just me and one other guy. I can't forget about my guy X. He's with me to this day as an owner operator. My guy X came on board probably right around the time me and you sat down. He was a young guy, right? He reminded me of myself, Xavier, where he literally, he literally came on board at a young age. I remember I did a photo shoot. I met him at the photo shoot. This is the crazy part. Met him at the photo shoot, right? I had all my trucks there. I had somebody shuttling me back and forth to get my trucks there. I met him. I said, you drive, huh? All right, I'll tell you what, go hop in that truck and move it for me. We about to go on a run and get some photos and videos. He was amped up, because he a young guy at the time, driving for a company. Yeah. So he ended up working for me part-time too, which ended up turning into a full-time position. And I'm proud of him as well too, because he actually, when he left me, he actually got his own trucks now. He got 2 trucks. And he's running under my company now as an owner-operator. You know what I'm saying? Okay. But not to get too much far off time. So when you factor in that time, literally, it was tough. So the drivers was leaving for their own reason. It came down to just me and X. It was just me and him. We were thugging it out. And 2023, I had my daughter. Shout out to her, Marley. I'm sure she's going to watch this in a couple of years and say, oh, that's daddy. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So I had her in 2023. So now was really a different time for me, right? I'm starting to experience the downside of my up. And one of the biggest things I could say, Mel, is just, when you, of course, there's no excuses, but just speaking on my own battles, it's like, when you are a first-time generational entrepreneur, right, you don't have anybody else guiding you or no one else in the family or no mentor, things like that. I made a lot of bad, financial decisions, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm living life. You know what I'm saying? Things was going good. Money was flowing in. So I remember at one point in time, a lot of people know me for my Bentley. I bought the Bentley, you know what I'm saying? And it's so crazy because the Bentley was the best car, but the worst car I ever bought. People might think I got rid of that Bentley for financial reasons. I love that car. I did not get rid of it for financial reasons. I got rid of it because it ended up being a bad car, like electrical issues, all kinds of things. But I bought that car, man, and I was living, bro. I had 5 cars. I had like 5 cars, you know what I'm saying? So between my bills and my car budget, I remember I was, of my income, over 10 grand, easy. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I'm kind of, I'm young. I'm living life. I'm spending money. I'm enjoying myself. Nothing is wrong with that. But thinking back on it now, the biggest thing I could tell you, right, that I would have done different was I would have definitely, instead of investing in a lot of the extra cars and things like that, I feel like nothing's wrong with having multiple cars, but I ain't need 5. You know what I'm saying? Nothing's wrong with having multiple cars. I didn't need 5, bro. I had a Dodge Ram. I had a Lexus RC 350. I had a CLS 400. I had the Bentley. I had a bike. You know what I'm saying? I had a slingshot. I had a lot of toys. And I remember I started a little rental business for a short period of time, BP Auto Rentals, where I was like, you know what, let me see if I can make a little money. I ended up renting them out. You know what I'm saying? And I did that. But like I said, nothing is wrong with living life. But I could have toned it down. And, I feel like 2 cars.
Yeah.
Like now I got 1 car. But I feel like, 2 cars is,
That's enough.
Yeah, that's enough. You got a truck and a car.
Right.
As it says, a man, you always need a truck.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I could have kept my truck and I could have kept my car. You know what I'm saying? So I'm experiencing that. Of course, when the money was flowing in, it's nothing. You know what I'm saying? But one thing about it is, which I've realized now, you always, of course, want to prepare yourself, for that rainy day. You know what I'm saying? You that's something that you definitely want to do, right? And yeah, that's something that I definitely did not really think. So when I was experiencing my ups, the biggest thing I could tell you that I should have been doing was really preparing for that downfall. Because one thing I realized in business is numbers are always going to be like this. I don't care what business you're in. When you really think about it, all these Fortune 500 companies, they're laying off people. That's not because they're not making money. They're still making money, but in order for them to make sense, in order for them to stay profitable, in order for them to keep numbers where they need to be, margins where they need to be, they have to lay off people.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? To keep profits where they need to be. So that's one thing that I could say for sure.
Or to increase profits.
Exactly.
Right?
In order to increase.
Shareholders.
Yeah,
and stuff
AI is becoming taking over all these robots and things that they're using in warehouses where they no longer need real people being there. So yeah, man, that was one of the biggest things I've learned is just that what I should have been doing was really kind of preparing for that downfall. But again, no excuse. But at the time, just knowing where my mindset was, I'm young. I'm living life. Money's coming in every day, bro. Ain't no waiting to get paid. Every day that money is hitting my account. You know what I'm saying? Bless a lot of people. Put my mom in position, put her in an apartment. You know what I'm saying? Bought her a car. I did a lot of great things over the years. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, that's definitely just something that I value to this day. Like, for example, even just now, just where I'm at, I value so much, like as I help other people, that's the biggest thing I tell them, right? Just as far as you want to plan for that rainy day, because it's only a matter of time in some cases before it comes. So you really want to be ready for that. You know what I'm saying? And that was something that I definitely, I did not, I can honestly say I did not. I was living life. I was not, like I say to this day, like if you're in trucking, you really need to find something to dump your profits in. I feel like that's important because trucking, the money is, everyone that's been in the game for a while would tell you the money is up and down. So if you have something that's more stable, but the money comes a little slower, that's really what you need, because there may come a point in time where you're living off of that other business that you started putting your profits in, because trucking is down right now. And there's so many reasons why trucking could be down, not just because of rates. You could be experiencing a maintenance crisis. That happens where you got 4 trucks and all of them are breaking down. You like, what the hell is going on?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that's the biggest thing I've learned. If there's anybody that's been in the game, that's gonna get in the game, you know what I'm saying, that a lot of people have got out of business, they lost it all. You know what I'm saying? It got down to the point where, getting back to the story, it was just me and X. We were running things, and my daughter, she was born that year in August of 2023. And it was just a tough time, like mentally. Like one thing about me, I do a good job with just staying a grounded person and not really letting the business, cause me to be stressed or anything so much. You know what I'm saying? Because I mean, it's like when you put your all into this business, bro, it's my entrepreneurs, all of my entrepreneurs, they know what it's like. You know what I'm saying? When you put so much time into something and to see it go downhill, or you see, yourself lose it. Because a lot of people, one thing I always say, you can't control everything. A lot of people, it's a blessing to still be here because a lot of people lost it all. A lot of people, when they see a truck, man, they give them goosebumps because they literally went bankrupt. People that went bankrupt from trucking because they got into business, they didn't educate themselves. It's so many things, right? Courses and everything was a big time thing back then, right? People were selling courses, nothing's wrong with that, but a lot of people were getting in the game just based off of the course and not really knowing the ins and outs of trucking. You know what I'm saying? Just taking a course and thinking that they could do it. You know what I'm saying? So as well as, everyone, the biggest thing, everyone is going to sell you the highs. They're going to sell you, oh, this is what trucking is. They're not going to sell you a story that's going to make you not want to get into it. And that was one thing I prided myself in. I give you the good, but I also give you the bad. I don't want you to think this business is, and that's one of the reasons why still to this day, I never sold anything when it came to like courses or anything like that, because I just knew how expensive this business can be. And especially after experiencing the lows, I just knew like, you know what, man, nah, I don't want to take that route just because it's a lot. And like I said, one thing about being an entrepreneur, people take so many, they put their blood, sweat, and tears into their business, man. You literally, people have depleted their life savings. You know what I'm saying? Now I learn about credit and I know about using other people's money, as we call OPM, and things like that I've really learned over the years through social media, YouTube, and things like that. But when I was starting my business, I didn't educate myself. I didn't know about credit. I didn't know about certain things I should be paying attention to. You know what I mean? So for sure, I would definitely say just over the years, and 2023, with that being literally the roughest year in my entrepreneur career, it was a blessing to really overcome it because my daughter's born. I'm trying to enjoy that, but at the same time, just knowing that I'm just dealing with my last 10,000 that I'm trying to manage, and you know what I'm saying? It got tough. It definitely got tough.
What did revenue drop to?
Oh shoot, it dropped from 80K a month down to 20.
Down to 20.
20 seemed like a lot, but when you're paying expenses, you're paying a driver, you're paying, taking care, I'm a family man, taking care of family. You know what I'm saying? It's not as much as you think it is.
Yeah. And what are you doing with the other assets? You still have the trailers, right?
No. So that was one thing. So what ended up happening was the good thing, which was a blessing at the time, right? When I noticed the downhill of trucking, I had 5 trailers that I own, right? So the money was so good in trucking, a lot of people, as we know, they were taking advantage and spiking prices up on equipment. So I paid $30,000 for the trailers, right? Something told me, I say, you know what? Being as though the market is down, I got these trailers that's just sitting. I don't need them. So guess what I did? I sold them back to hell.
Okay.
But the beauty of that was I spent 30. They were giving me about over 20 grand for the trailers. So I was making about probably because I only had a small balance. So they're giving me over 20,000 for each trailer, which is crazy. But the reason they're doing that is because they're selling them for damn near what I paid for them, because the prices of equipment had inflated.
Why not?
Which that was a good thing when you factor in they could have just gave me pennies and still sold them for those crazy profits. So I do like the fact that they did pay fair, obviously probably because they were wanting to get the trailer because they knew it was going to sell.
Yeah.
So
you offloaded the trailers?
Offloaded the trailers, and I made probably about $15,000 per trailer that I sold. So
okay,
that was definitely a huge blessing. So I did that, and I kept about 3 trailers. I kept my rental trailers and kept about 1 more other trailer that I owned, and yeah, that was something that definitely helped me out at the time. It was kind of what was needed, and I noticed as I was there, I would see other businesses that I would see around with their trailers there. They did the same thing.
Yeah.
They sold their trailers, were downsizing.
Right.
Because that's something that's big in any business. Sometimes, just paying attention to your numbers, which is something that I did do. which is why I knew, is one of the reasons why I'm here to this day, because I knew it was time to downsize. It was time to offload equipment. It was time to kind of make some other things shake. So I kind of just went back to the drawing board in 2023, just after experiencing everything as far as becoming a father and things like that, just kind of trying to keep my headspace in a good space, trying to enjoy the moment. But one thing about it, man, is we as providers, as men, the biggest thing besides God and family, really boils down to, your hustle. Because at the end of the day, that's what's taking care of your family. So the next thing on our mind, besides our main priorities, is that money.
Yeah.
That money flowing in. So that was tough on me for sure. I held it together, but it was definitely tough on me for sure, just knowing that the market was just so inconsistent. One day I might work, one day I might not work. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't really notice things start turning around probably until around, I would say, because thankfully my dedicated lanes that I had, my telecommunication company, Hunt Valley, kept me afloat. Without them, I probably wouldn't be here, because they altered the rates on me a little bit, but not much, because it was direct. And the biggest thing is because it's a direct customer. There's no middleman. If I was going through a broker, shave off $200-$300 a load, which would have made it extremely more hard. That was a direct relationship. So a lot of times people don't realize, of course, the power in the direct relationships. There's no middleman that you're going through. So even when rate cuts become, because best believe they come a thing, because a lot of times you don't realize how many people are trying to market your customer on a daily basis, saying, hey, can we quote you? These brokers are really aggressive.
Yeah.
So they're, hey, can we quote you? Can we quote you? Can we quote you? It gets to the point where you never know. Somebody in the office may say, hey, you know what? Sure. The numbers come in and they match those numbers to what I'm running for. Hell, we can save money on our bottom line. So that's where having, of course, a good relationship with these customers becomes a thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, I remember I ran into a situation once where I was wondering, like, when I go to my direct shipper, I pay attention. And when I say pay attention, I'll talk to drivers. I'll look at paperwork. They got a big computer in there. I'll look at where drivers is going, making sure ain't nobody taking my lanes. You get what I'm saying? And one thing about running dedicated, even though I'm just a carrier, I know that when y'all run these freight, I'm building relationships with not just the customer, with the warehouse too. They text me, they call me, Brock, what time you coming? You know what I'm saying? What time your driver gonna be here? That's very important to build those relationships. You know what I'm saying? So by me doing so, it was fortunate enough, because I would learn, like, they would tell me, hey, Brock, we got this load, but your name ain't on this load. And I'm like, what? So one of the issues I dealt with, they hired my direct customer, they hired a new office, well, not a warehouse man, but a new office personnel that deal with the loads, a new freight manager, basically.
Okay, got it.
He did not know me. And right. I remember I gave them hell, bro, because the guy I had the relationship with, I'm like, Drew.
You ain't telling about me?
Yes, Drew, you got him quoting my lanes. Come on now. And you know what's so funny? We talking about, even still, he just gets the donkey of the day. Even just literally last month, bro.
Okay, we got a donkey of the day now.
Last, he gets the donkey of just the year. Because even just last month, bro, he gave one of my lanes away. I'm like, Steve, we've been running. Now, he's not, keep in mind, me and Steve have been working together now for probably 3-4 years he's been there. So it's like, we do it every week. He came back from vacation, and apparently he was still on vacation, not thinking. You know what I'm saying? To give my freight away. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, man, he definitely cost me some money, because a lot of period of time and it would happen for weeks, because at first I was just thinking, I kind of turned a blind eye. I'm like, okay, well, I get it. Freight is a little slow. Until I realized he was actually giving it away because he didn't know about me.
Oh, wow.
You know what I'm saying? So finally got over that.
You watching this, man. We love you, Steve.
Yeah, man, for sure, Steve. You gotta get it together, Steve. But yes, man. So just experiencing that, we end up getting it together, and I end up getting that lane back for sure. But that just goes to show how much they appreciate me as a person. The one guy who I built that relationship with, of course, he ended up going into a higher position, but guess what? He always made sure I was taken care of, because he could have easily said, you know what, don't use Brock no more. He's just too high. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? We can get it done for cheaper. Let's do that. But having that personal relationship with him, because I gave him a Customer of the Year award. When I did my Interstate Hustlers Ball, I gave him, you don't realize sometimes the little things you do for a customer will literally leave a forever impression on them. That's something that people got to remember when it comes to doing business. Never forget about your customer, man. Always take care of them. I don't care if it's one load a week, whatever they're giving you. If you value that relationship, show your value by taking care. Do something other than the ordinary.
Show your appreciation.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Sure you
Bring them
stand out from
lunch,
everybody
whatever.
else.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna lie though. One thing I never done, I never really, well, for the most part, I might have done it 1 or 2 times, but I never really brought the warehouse a lunch like
You
that.
never did the whole. You never
I know,
did donuts and coffee?
because I ain't gonna lie. I mean, don't get me wrong, nothing's wrong with that. But at the end of the day, I just look at it like the warehouse don't get the final say so, bro. It's
Right.
the people
Y'all
in
just
the
loading the
Don't get me
trucks.
wrong. I have done that before. I did buy pizza for one customer, but for one customer in their warehouse. But as far as my telecommunication customer,
Yeah.
they got 3 shifts.
Yeah,
So you know what I'm saying? I would bless a lot, like shoot 'em a little cash app, things like that. I have done that. But the most important relationship, of course, is the one who is actually tendering that load to you. You know what I'm saying? And I always made sure I kind of just show my appreciation there. Yeah, for sure. So this is the end of 2023. Moving into 2024, like I said, it was really just a humble feeling because eventually I remember with X, right, his differential went up. So for people who don't know, you only have a few parts on the truck that cost a lot of money.
That's
your
one of them.
engine, that's definitely one of them. Your engine, your transmission, and that differential. Those are some of the, if you have a tandem axle truck, you have 2 differentials. A lot of people don't know this just due to not educating yourself, right? You know what I'm saying? It's not, I'm sure that differential ain't in the courses that you're buying. You know what I'm saying? So having that, knowing the knowledge of the parts of that truck, people don't realize you have to check the level of oil that's in the differential. If you getting your oil changes, taking care of your maintenance, but you never check that level, because one thing about the differential, there's no component hooked to the check engine light that's gonna make it come on when the oil's low. It's not a car.
Right.
You know, your car has all million sensors. It'll tell you when anything, your washer fluid is low and it'll tell you. A truck doesn't work like that, bro. The essential component, the main engine components is what that's connected to, but your differential, you're not, I could tell you, people that's watching this right now, a lot of them have replaced that differential due to the oil being low and they did not know.
That's so simple.
Something so simple.
Yeah.
You're not checking that. You know what I'm saying? So the differential went up on his truck. And it's funny, I had checked the differential oil, had a guy top it off, put some more in there. So I knew, because I've done a few differentials over my time. And yeah, they're expensive. You know what I'm saying? They could range from $3,500 to $5K plus. And you have 2 of them.
Right.
If you have a tandem axle truck. So I've done a few of them. So the differential went up on his truck, and it just got to the point where, you know, of course, just looking at your numbers, it's like, yeah, I could pay to get it done, but it's like, it's not worth it. You know, freight is slow. It was just me and him. So I went from the 4 trucks. We're now into 2023, going into 2024. Went from the four trucks to just now 2 that I'm running. You know what I'm saying? Just due to the freight just not being there. You know what I'm saying? And once that came about, I said, you know what, bro? He was literally one of the, now I think about it, he's the only driver I probably did have to lay off. Literally, only one, because it just didn't really make sense. So he ended up leaving, doing his own thing, going with a different company. Still, of course, sticking to his goal X and getting his own 2 trucks. But you know, that was, so I literally went from that high of 4 trucks,
Yeah.
80K in revenue, all the way down to just myself. So, you know, as an entrepreneur, man, one thing about me, I feel like you don't want to surround yourself. You don't want to clog your mind with the negative. So I always looked at it like, yeah, this is tough. Look, I'm getting up, I'm working every day. You know what I'm saying? Life is good. You know, I ain't had to do that. But one thing about me, and just the beauty of having a CDL, right? I'm not just a business owner. I'm a truck driver first. You know what I'm saying? That's what I started doing. So I feel like that's one of the things that separated me from a lot of other people. A lot of people that have CDLs.
Yeah.
You can't.
That don't come
If
with the
everything,
course.
yeah, exactly. If everything fails, you know what I'm saying? You can't jump in that truck. You're not qualified. You're not licensed.
Right.
So that's the beauty of just that CDL in my back pocket. Just doing, hey, if all else fail, I could get it done. Best believe I use it to my advantage, because you know,
Golden ticket,
over
man.
the years, man, you know, you had your conversation with your drivers, and it's like, okay, you said what? I'll tell you what, bro, park the truck, bro. You know what I'm saying? I jump in there and I take care of myself. Or you can't do that? Don't worry about it. I got you. You know what I'm saying? I can do it. And that's just a peace of mind. It was never one of those things where, you know, it's like, okay, I was blessed to have you. But at the end of the day, I knew that if all else fails, I can do it myself. And that was a blessing, you know what I'm saying, within itself. So I experienced, you know, just being going back to that one truck operation. And between my telecommunications company in Hunt Valley, that's why I said they're a blessing to this day, even dealing with Steve. You know what I'm saying? they kept me afloat. You know what I'm saying? Between every once in a while, I would catch a load off the load board. Especially, I remember during Christmas time, right? Christmas time of like 2024, they were booming. I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta get it. Tesco was, because like the end of the quarter, they kind of pick up. So I remember I would do a lot of that. Then they would have other little gigs for me to do where warehouse transfer, where I'd charge them sometimes $300 to take the load from literally their warehouse to across the street. And sometimes they'd want to do 2 or 3 of them. But I remember one thing that was sucked when that opportunity came, right? It seemed like every time I was going on vacation, they called my phone, bro. And I'm like, yeah. Any business owner, I don't care what business you in, no one likes to turn down money, man.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? Especially a new business opportunity. So I remember I would make things shake. Like, hey, and that's the beauty of just having a network of drivers. I call one of my guys, hey, can you drive my truck for me? I'll pay you, you know what I'm saying? Just so that I could keep. I remember one time I took a risk and I put my one of my friends in the truck. I didn't know none of his driving, nothing. You know what I'm saying? But all I do is I said, look, bro, can you drive this truck? Right. You know what I'm saying? And he would say, remember, his name's Q. I told him, he said, yeah, because all my trucks were manual. So I remember hearing back from the customer, bro, he had a hard time getting in the door. And I asked him, I said, oh yeah, you got it? Yeah, we good. We all good. He never told me. That's one thing about the drive. It's always two sides to a story. What the driver say, what the warehouse say.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Right. What the warehouse say is always going to be the truth. Because they're the ones sitting there waiting on the driver to get in the door.
Pulling up 15 times.
You know what I'm saying? Exactly.
Had to let somebody else get in the truck and back it up.
Right.
And get in for him.
Exactly. I ain't gonna lie. Yeah, it's been a couple of times I done had to pull up on drivers.
Facts.
They couldn't get it.
Yeah.
Bro, where you at, man? You know what I'm saying? Where you at, man? You know what I'm saying? And yeah, man. So definitely dealt with that like the end of 2024. So one thing about me, I'm just kind of brainstorming. I'm just kind of thinking of my next move because I knew for sure I wanted to stay in trucking, but I just knew I just kind of wanted to do something a little different, right? The biggest thing that I realized is just being in the position that I'm in. It's a lot of people that look up to me and they want my position. And one thing I said was, you know what? Well, how can I create an opportunity where someone could have my position? We could still work together. Of course, I make money, they make money. So that was what opened my eyes to leasing on trucks. So I started that earlier this year, right? Beginning like 2025, where I started to lease on trucks. And it actually was a perfect time for me because my insurance had went down because I dealt with, of course, which everyone's dealt with. You have maintenance, little violations from DOT. A lot of people who don't know that affects your insurance. You know what I'm saying? Having a clean CSA score when your truck gets pulled into the inspection station, them not finding too many things wrong with it, that's going to help you overall for sure. That literally can make or break your company, to be honest, because when your CSA gets too out of whack, you deal with audits, you deal with higher insurance premiums, you deal with insurance companies dropping you. It can get ugly, you know, and that's something I never really dealt with to that extreme. However, I have definitely paid a higher premium due to having those high scores, as well as just driver safety as well. Like a lot of my other, homies that would be in the business, they took a lot of L's, man. Like guys rolling trucks over. Shout out to every single, if I missed your name, shout out to every single driver I had. I think I named everybody, but literally, I remember, I forgot one, Jamone. I haven't spoke to him in a while, but if he so happened to follow me still and watch this, Jamone was the last one too as well. Great driver. You know what I mean? And everyone, bro, I've never dealt with a major L. Now, I ain't gonna lie. Al, if you watching this, was the only L, man. So let me tell you a quick story about Al. Al was done. So one thing about me, man, I don't send drivers I don't put them in situations that I wouldn't do. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm a driver first. So New York.
You don't mess with New York?
No.
No?
Al, he was from New York. He's an older guy, right?
Right.
So Al, hey, Brock, yeah, man. Al, so remember I told you when I was running the containers, Al was the nighttime guy.
Okay.
So his old self coming in late at night, I get to him though. He handled it well.
Right.
He only had one little hiccup. He was over on during that operation. He was on one of them back rows, probably got too close to that line and smacked my mirror, cracked the back shell of it because he probably was over the line and hit a tree or something like that. But that's minor. Driver's gonna do that.
Right.
Until he was running under my authority. And again, I don't do New York. Would never send a truck to New York. Besides, if you tell me you're comfortable with it, right, and you want to go to New York, I'll send you to New York.
Right.
He was the only driver. He's from the Bronx. No. He's
The
from the
Bronx.
Bronx. Man, let me tell you something. This is a funny story,
What
man.
borough you sent him
y'all
into,
gonna fall
man?
out your seat when I tell you this story. You ready?
Oh, man, talk to me.
He texted my phone one night, right, early in the morning. So it was crazy because it's funny how it all works out. Leading up to that, I was trying to get a hold of him because one thing I always pride myself in is taking care of the customer, keeping them updated on loads and things like that. A lot of times drivers kind of don't understand that dynamic because they're not in my shoes. However, he would start on Sundays, so I was just trying to call him, make sure we're all good. He's still going to come in Sunday night to deliver this load. Couldn't get a hold of him. Finally get a hold of him because I see the truck moving. I'm like, Al, you good? Yeah, I'm good, man. I could just tell by talking to him he had a day. He was probably moving around all day, and that's one thing about just juggling between your personal life and your truck life is it can be tough because he was probably moving around all day and thought his ass was gonna get in that truck and drive these loads. So he get up there to New York, text my phone, I need a tire. I'm like, huh? Need a tire? I know I just checked them tires. They good. I ain't need a tire. He must have hit something. Send me a picture of the tire. Keeping my eye, he's probably in his 60s now. He was in his probably late 50s then. So he trying to work a smartphone, send me the picture of the tire. I noticed, I'm like, he trying to crop out the trailer, but I can see parts of the trailer look like it's missing. I'm like, huh? So I can't remember if I sent him the money or what I did, but all in all, the full truth ends up coming out because I could tell something was off because I knew I checked them tires and them tires was good. Most of the time, tires ain't just, they don't get me wrong, they can, recaps, things like that, but those tires was fresh.
Yeah.
I knew they was good. So, plus what gave it off was where he sent the picture. He was trying to hide the damage
Right.
the way he sent it, but of course, by being older in age, you don't know how to,
He didn't know how to
he didn't know how to edit it,
on.
crop it, and then that way just show me the tire. So I end up seeing it. So I end up calling him on the phone. I'm like, yeah, Al, what's going on? You saying you just need a tire? Send me. It looked like some damage on the trailer. Yeah, man, I messed up. So one thing about it, man, every owner, you talking about the heart drop moment of trucking. Driver calling you when you know it's something wrong,
Right.
whether it's late at night, why are you calling me? You know it's an issue. Right. That's literally, if I was to say, the most heart drop moment, the moment that makes you cringe.
100%.
Waking up in the middle of the night, getting a call, and I was just like, what's going on? He ended up tearing the whole side of the tandem. Thankfully, it was just the tandem axle and a little bit of the side of the trailer. By him being out doing whatever he was doing, made a turn, not paying attention, up there in tight New York, which I don't even send trucks to. Tearing, all I know, Mel, it was red. Because when he got back, it was nothing but red on the trailer. So what happened was, thankfully, he was able to get the load off. I will say that. No issues there because, of course, we could have dealt with things like a lot of people deal with. Oh, it's damage to the trailer. Of course, the warehouse is going to protect their workers. They're not going to have them go in and unload it.
Right.
So there was no damage as far as that structurally, where it was still safe for them to unload. They might didn't even see the damage. But after he got done, basically, he shifted the whole axle of the trailer. So I know I bet I might be on TikTok or something to this day. That trailer going down the road in the right lane, but he in the left lane. And yeah, man,
That's hilarious, man.
So what happened was we had to chain the axle up just so that back axle was not as turnt so that he could come back home, which was $1,000. So guess who, of course, paid for that?
Oh,
he did, driver. So when he got back, man, I ain't gonna lie. I had to cut him loose right there on the spot because that was, that was definitely something that I couldn't be profitable
That's a
knowing that.
non-negotiable right there.
Man, that was for sure. And it ended up turning out to be literally 20 grand worth of damage. So besides that.
Yeah.
No rollovers, no guy willing, no, little fender benders. You always gonna have them.
Right.
Driver clips this or clip that, or car clip him. You know what I'm saying? Of course, dealt with that, but no major L's. And I'll tell you a hack. When I had my insurance, the way I had my insurance set up, that didn't even affect me to this day, because there's a company called TruckLife, which is plenty of other insurance companies out there. So I had my trailers on a separate policy than my authority policy. So if you follow me, when I put that claim in for that 20 grand, it really only cost me $1,000 security deposit because I filed the claim with TruckLife, which is the insurance company, which is not the insurance company under my authority. So that was something that I definitely was thankful of. I had all my trailers under a separate policy than my actual trucking policy for my authority. So I didn't have to deal with the loss of a $20,000 hit. And when the thing is when it comes time to renew, they run what's called your loss runs. So nothing showed up, of course, because it's on a whole separate policy.
Right.
So that's kind of a hack as well, too. Sometimes you might want to look at separating like physical damage for your truck, having that on a separate insurance policy, as well as your trailers, have those on a separate insurance policy sometimes, because it's not that expensive. And the good thing about it is when there's damage done to it, you don't have to worry about that affecting your main authority, which is, which is the most important thing.
So you have the trailers on a separate entity?
No, not a separate
Not separate entity,
it's just a separate insurance policy.
Okay.
Separate insurance policy. I think I did that because the bank, they were requiring, they needed that, and they needed like certain coverages, and it just, at the time, I just ended up using them to cover all of the trailers just to pay it separately. So I think I might have was paying at one point for all 5 trailers, probably like a little under $1,000 for the physical damage for that. But it ended up definitely being a blessing for sure when you factor in it didn't affect my main insurance when I took that loss.
Right. Yeah, it's always fun. It's always funny how the story develops as when a driver calls in and trying to tell you what happened.
Exactly. Thinking that we
it
rookies.
Starts here, and then it's like as you ask more questions, it escalates.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, what did you do?
For sure. So that happened, and yeah, man. So as we get into just me being back to just a solo guy, that was definitely a humble moment for myself. But one thing about it is, just when I feel like if you add up as an entrepreneur every hour that you worked versus working a 9-to-5 is typically gonna always, win on paper wise. You know what I'm saying? Until you hit that breaking point where you really experience and reap the benefits of all the hard work that you put in. You know what I'm saying? On paper, a 9-to-5 sometimes is always gonna look better because you're paid for every single hour.
And it's consistent.
Exactly. That's the biggest thing with any business. You can make $100 grand tomorrow, but if you don't make no money for 6 months, you know what I'm saying? So consistency for sure that was the number one downside, I would say, to my business, just not experiencing that consistency. Going from them 80K at my peak down to 20 as well. Plus I'll share something else, just being transparent as well that I dealt with was during my experiencing my down. So one thing I did when I was up, I was learning about credit and I was trying to build things like that. One thing that I took advantage of was called a MCA loan for a lot of people. A lot of people in trucking, they take advantage of that, merchant cash advance. So I took advantage of that at the time, and I did a lot of the different basically like transactions where I would do just like a short loan, 6 months, 4 months, 3 months. So I took a lot of those out, paid them back successfully until I experienced that downside of trucking, right? So I always just like to let people know as far as about MCA and how it works. So how it works typically is it's an advance that they give you. And when they give you this advance, it's unlike any other loan because they put a UCC lien on your business. And I remember it's crazy. A lot of people that's watching, they're going to know exactly what I'm talking about because they dealt with their aggressive actions that they take. if you have struggles repaying that loan. You know what I'm saying? So that was definitely something that I experienced as well. Just understanding now, moving forward, learning about credit. There's literally no need for a MCA loan if you know about credit. You know what I'm saying? Because you can literally go, and even if you got to restructure your credit, do credit repair, you know what I'm saying, to get your credit back to where you need it to, building your business credit, or if you just do it right from the jump, you're never going to have any issues because there's so many hacks that I've learned over the years. Like, for example, having a credit card and using your credit card to pay your fuel bill and getting the cash back points from that. You know what I'm saying? So many, whether you fly a lot, you having a credit card that's designed to give you air miles and using that credit card for your fuel. Even if you want to use your credit card for the fuel, or you use a fuel card, but pay the fuel card off with a credit card. Because obviously, if you have drivers, who wants to put a platinum credit card in the driver's hands? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So a lot of things you can utilize in credit to your advantage in trucking, where you can really flourish. Paying the expensive repairs on a credit card. You want to do that, because you're going to get cash back, whatever the incentives is on that particular card. It doesn't make sense to do anything with debit when you really know about credit. And that was something that I had to learn over the years as well, just not having that knowledge in the beginning of my journey, because I was doing everything with debit, but you're not getting nothing in return for using debit. That's right. Especially credit cards where you're getting 0% interest for a certain amount of term. Just knowing how to pay that payment off before the statement close date so it doesn't affect your credit. It's a lot of hacks in credit that you can utilize to your business because, as the saying goes, just the school system, man. I'm not going to say it failed us, but it definitely could have gotten us a lot farther in life when you factor in if they would have had certain classes like financial literacy, things like that. I didn't learn about it myself until I actually got out of, high school and everything and start watching some of these content creators as well as YouTube, and they were actually teaching credit, was really how I learned about it myself. Just sharing those platforms like those resources like BMO Transportation, people that's looking to get into the business, that's definitely a good one that you could look at. Just using funding. Funding is another good one once you build your credit, just utilizing that, right? So fast forward to this day, I have 4 owner-operators that run under my authority now, as well as that, a new one that you don't know of, man. I tapped into the box truck lane. So now I'm running box trucks and just realizing man, that box truck game I wish I would have done that a long time ago, because I'm not going to lie to you, they make almost just about, if not more money than an actual semi.
Stop.
And when I say semi, no. So let me explain.
Okay.
A dry van semi.
Okay.
Yes, they're on that level. I'm witness proof. I can show numbers if anyone wants to challenge me. I'm talking about a dry van semi. Don't get me wrong. That's, of course, not for everyone. Some people have some good lanes with dry vans where they can make consistent $7,000, $8,000. But I'm talking about a consistent $5,000 a week over the road, which is what a lot of dry vans do. Everyone's numbers are different. You're going to have people that come in. Some people make $10,000 a week with a dry van. So I'm not saying that as a whole for everybody, but overall, when you look at the numbers, because I've done it, I literally have one where you look at a box truck, that $5,000 is average revenue, right? That's about what every dry van, just speaking on dry van, should make. A box truck can literally do that same $5,000 and a lot of times more. I did this week alone? I did six. I did like $6,000. I did $6,000 with the box truck this week. You see what I'm saying?
Who's driving the box truck?
I got a new guy, Antonio.
And he's
Shout out to him.
Over the road?
Yeah, he's over the road with the box truck.
You're dispatching the box truck?
No. So that's another thing. So one thing I've also learned over the years is I'm just at that point where I like having my free time, just getting my time back, because next year I'll make 10 years I've been in business. I've been in trucking since 20. I'll be 33 this month. So I'm just at that point where I'm just realizing, man, it's okay to pay people and be hands off with it, because even though at my highs money was good, but I was constantly focusing on my business because I was the one in charge of dispatch. So now, besides my dedicated lane, so now how my business is structured is I use owner operators where they find their own work, right? So I charge them 15%. They go out, they find their own work. You know what I'm saying? Which it makes a lot of sense versus me trying to find the work for them. One, because you're basically, in my opinion, it works for some people. But I'll just say, in my opinion of it is, you're not really learning nothing. If I'm finding your own work, you're not learning how to find lanes. You're not learning what lanes pay the best. You're not learning the terminology of trucking. You know what I'm saying? You're not learning a lot of things. You're not building your own business, in my opinion. Don't get me wrong. It works with some people. You working with a dispatcher and they do your own bookings and they're keeping you busy. Hey, don't listen to anything I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? But for some people that's new to the business, you know what I'm saying, and you're hungry, you really trying to finding a company that's going to allow you to dispatch your own loads is going to work great for you, because eventually you're going to want to scale up to having your own authority. Because if you are leased under a company and you are finding your own work, you are building your own lanes, but you're giving this company a percentage. And I'm really talking about myself. I'm getting a percentage. As I tell drivers, hey, this is my business model. You come under me as an owner-operator, right? Pay the 15%. And as you build your own lanes, you're building your own lanes because eventually I want you to get your own authority. I don't want you to stay under me. I want you to, why would you want to continue giving me 15% if you're doing majority of the work? I do the back office, send the paperwork in, keep the brokers up to date on emails. You know, that's the back office, the easy part. So it's like, it's a good opportunity for people that are new in the business. You come run under me, build your lanes up. And at that time, you are now also getting yourself ready to have your own authority. Now you're not jumping off the porch from square one. When you get your own authority, guess what you've built? You've built lanes. You might already have a dedicated lane. If you don't have a dedicated lane, you definitely have some kind of dedicated brokers that's calling your phone. Exactly. If not daily, weekly.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? So that's my business model. For every driver I know that's gonna leave me, I know I have five more that's waiting. So I'm very blessed and very humble. So anyone I bring on, I understand that, bro. I'm not looking to retire you. I'm not looking for this to be your final destination. All I'm looking to do is help you grow. We grow together. You come, we do good business. You run under me, and eventually you branch off and get your own authority. I'm going to help you get your own authority, because one thing about it is, when it comes to the authority is, remember, you need that 6 months. So think about it. Even if you get your own authority, you're still back to square one because you have a brand new authority, and you can't run with this broker that you've been running with under my company the last 6 months or the last year. So here's the hat. You run under my company, get your own authority, but guess what? You still stay under my insurance. You still stay under my insurance and let your authority age. Sure, you have to pay that expense of the insurance, but would you rather spend an extra $2,000 or extra, let's just say $1,500 a month when you're making $20,000 plus a month? Who wouldn't do that? You know what I'm saying? You do it for 6 months until your authority ages, and then you branch off and you now under your own authority. And you didn't experience the hardships of having an authority that you can't, because you could run under my authority and then get your own authority, but you're still back to square one, because now you're saying, hey, Johnny, I'm ready to go. I got my own authority. Okay, what's your MC number? 06845. Bro, you just got your authority. So while your authority's aging, guess what you're doing? You're still running under my numbers, still running under my insurance, because it's a lot of things that's changed over the years, like a company called Highway. Bro, I'm telling you, Highway is they're different. They're taking over the game. Visibility, they're on our ASS. Put it like that. It's to the point where they got so much control. Y'all need to pay my ELD bill and everything, because they've taken over the game.
With them this week.
Oh wow, bro! Yeah. We'll tell them. I said everything they trying to do. We feel it. We feel it. Okay. I literally lost just the other week $2,000 in a week because of Highway. Because what happened was my insurance. I had just added a truck to my insurance, right? And the broker had needed an updated insurance because I literally booked the load the next day. So when I was trying to send in the new COI, certificate of insurance, Highway told the broker, it could take 2 hours to update. You think they're going to wait 2 hours to dispatch me that load? No, They gave it away. Right. So yeah, man, they're changing the game for sure. Just with these compliance companies, absolutely. But yeah, they for sure they're they're next level. I'm not gonna lie, they're next level. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. So I guess we talked about scaling up, downsizing. When you got back down to one, just you and yourself, what was the and I should have probably asked you this a little earlier, but I wanted to just know, just from an entrepreneurial perspective, what was the conversations you had with yourself, man? Where were you at emotionally? Did you feel like you'd be able to build it back up, or like were you near throwing in the towel? Like, what was that?
That's a good
What'd
question.
that feel
So
like?
I definitely wouldn't say I was near throwing in the towel, simply because I can always drive. I have my CDL. And the biggest thing, remember, I'm running local, so I never ever went back to over the road until now with the box truck. Never ever went back to going over the road, so I still had those relationships. I felt like if I would have lost that telecommunication customer,
That
I
might have
might would have. Yeah, I want to know. I
might
take
have been
that
the
back.
nail in the coffin.
I take that back. What I would have done, I would have shut down my authority. Might would have had no choice, and I would have just leased on. I would have found a company, because the beauty of just driving. I enjoy driving. I got a passion for driving. I love what I do, even still to this day. So I never really thought about like throwing in the towel so much for my business. So that was not something I was really just thinking about. It was just more so just trying to come up with a game plan to how I was gonna get back to that revenue. You know what I'm saying? Like, to this date, we're just about almost pretty much at that 80K a month now, back at that with the
Building it
owner.
back up.
Yeah, for sure. So that was definitely just the thing, just trying to figure out. And I had pretty much figured it out, but I was also kind of waiting for my insurance to go back down, because due to a few little CSA violations and things like that, drivers getting stopped, I was waiting for that premium to kind of get back into that threshold where I kind of needed it to be, which is right around that sweet number of about $1,000 a month, because that insurance can get crazy. A lot of people spend
Sure.
$2,500. Like, I remember when I first got my authority, I had a driver who had a medical card violation, which it was kind of unfair. He had the updated medical card in his possession, but it wasn't up to date in the system. So they still put a violation on my company. That cost me $10,000, because when I went to renew my insurance, I had to pay 10 grand for one truck to get under my authority. I had to pay $10,000, because it was like 3,000 of that was a security deposit, because what happened was that medical violation thing was so major, I couldn't find no insurance to insure me. And you know what I know now? I probably should have researched a little more and maybe found a different agent to get a quote with, because I could have made something shake. But at that moment, just being new to the business, I didn't even think about trying to reach out to another agent. I just went with what they told me the best they could do.
Right.
And I did that. But at the time, I was already in works of starting another LLC, starting another authority, because that was also one thing that was a blessing as well. A lot of people think that you can't have, as long as you don't have, as long as you don't get shut down by the FMCSA and for safety or whatever, and they tell you that, hey, you cannot do anything pertaining to trucking, you can have multiple authorities. The only thing, if you're gonna do this, you want to make sure that your companies are structured and separated for themselves, so nothing needs to cross. Can't use the same address, can't use the same phone number, but there's nothing in the books that says you can't have multiple authorities. You know what I'm saying? And that was one thing that I did have at the time, because I felt like if your goal is to really grow in this business, having the multiple authorities is really going to be useful. You know what I'm saying? Because it's going to sometimes, when it comes to maintenance issues, or God forbid, driver goes out there, rolls a truck over, or things like that, it's just going to allow you to move where if you have to shut one authority down, you can move the trucks to the other authority. And that's what I did. And when I say have to shut it down, I don't mean the FMCSA shutting you down. I'm talking about you choosing to shut it down because the insurance is too high. That's the difference.
Gotcha.
Obviously, people have gotten in trouble simply because FMCSA has gotten involved, they've got audited, and they're telling them, hey, you can't do trucking for X amount of time, or you can't do trucking no more at all. And then they go try to be involved with it again.
Take the back
hey,
door.
yeah, exactly. Hey, I'm gonna give you this money, start this LLC for me. And they still get in trouble because when they have issues again and that person rats them out, well, Johnny is the mastermind behind it.
They
You know what
blind
I'm saying?
authorities on Facebook.
Exactly. And it's crazy because they
Marketplace.
I get text messages almost every day, people looking to buy authorities
Oh, yeah,
because they know
that's a big underground and
yeah,
underworld.
because they know
authorities.
the value in having an aged authority for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so now we got 4 owner operators under your authority, and then you said the box truck. Does he run himself also? Is that the same type of setup, or is that different?
Yeah, so the box truck is basically like a company driver.
Okay,
Yeah,
so that's your box truck.
Yeah.
You purchased that truck.
I rent the truck.
You rent the truck?
Yeah, I rent the truck.
Okay, got it. And then you run that over the road.
Exactly, run that over the road.
Now you said I think the question I asked you was, are you dispatching the truck? And then you kind of went into the
Oh no!
the
So yeah, I
model.
hired a dispatcher.
hired a dispatcher.
Hired a
for that.
dispatcher for sure.
Free up your time.
Free up my time. I still drive part time. Mainly just doing my dedicated stuff. So I'm driving right now like 3 days a week.
Okay.
Still doing, but my goal next year
And
is
that's a telecommunications company.
telecommunications. That's mail, and then I do government freight through a broker every week, 2 times a week. I take care of that. So I'm still handling that, but my goal next year for sure is to kind of put myself pretty much back out of the truck 100%, and kind of look at maybe building an operation, building a different operation maybe in another state possibly. That's an option, as well as just
Why?
kind of just getting, you said why? Just because I might be moving. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, it might be moving.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so I'm looking at doing that as well, for sure. Because I might actually just start another operation just in another state, for sure, just for other business opportunities. Absolutely. So that's something I'm definitely thinking about doing.
Okay, got it. Now, looking back in hindsight and looking at what you have now,
Mm-hmm.
do you feel at ease? Does it feel like what you're doing now works more for you than what you were doing
Yeah,
previous? And
absolutely, because it's a blessing just knowing that I'm able to partner with not just drivers, business owners like myself. They can run under my authority, and me having that age authority and things like that, just helping putting them in a better position for sure. I definitely love what I do now for sure. It's less weight on me. I wake up day to day and I'm not getting text messages, hey bro, the truck won't start. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't handle that anymore because at the end of the day, they're running their own business. So even if I do get a text message like that, I'm still able to, able to help. Hey, okay, you need me to call one of my guys? But I mean, obviously that bill is on them. You know what I'm saying?
But I'm sure you have to be very vigilant with the guys that you bring on. Though,
Yeah. Oh
right?
yeah, for sure.
Because, I mean, it's
But
this
I
is
would
your authority,
exactly.
right?
But
So-
I will say, in my opinion, the level of the type of driver that, even though I've never had an issue with drivers, I all had good drivers, but overall, just for anyone that's thinking about doing this business model, the type of driver that you're gonna get as an owner operator is really gonna or can be night and day of a company driver. Because sometimes as a company driver, you have this model where you don't care about that truck. It's not your truck. You just there to make a paycheck.
Right.
You have someone as a owner operator, he's done invested, you never know, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, some folks cash on a truck. His mindset he or she should be much more different than an actual company driver. You know, the level of knowing when it's time to shut that truck down, because at the end of the day, he doesn't want to damage his equipment. If he goes out there, God forbid, he gets in an accident, that truck gets totaled, that's his equipment. I'm still liable, you know what I'm saying, insurance-wise, things like that. But overall, who takes that major L is him, because that's him or her, because that's their equipment.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So overall, the level of driver that you're gonna get should be much more at a higher level than a company driver. He already coming in knowing, bro, I'm just doing this for 3 months, 4 months. I'm just trying to get my money. I ain't checking the oil. I ain't checking this. I'm not checking none of that. This ain't my truck. You know, that's the biggest thing you always hear. This ain't my truck. I'm not responsible for nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we covered everything,
Yeah,
man. That brings us up to date. So, what's the biggest lesson that you've learned, man? You're still here.
Still here.
Almost 10
Grace of
years, about to
God.
celebrate
Almost
your
10
your
years.
10-year anniversary.
Absolutely.
What would be your message? Well, I'll ask you this. I mean, is trucking still worth getting into?
Oh, man.
Right now, today in 2020, it's 2026, is trucking still worth getting into as a small business owner?
Absolutely. But I will say it's one of those business where you want to make sure you really kind of have a passion or just enjoy doing it, it's not something that you should just do for the money, because if you just do it for the money, you're going to be out of business in 6 months, 9 times out of 10, because you're going to experience so many lows where the only thing that's kind of keeping you going is the passion for it. You know what I'm saying? But it's definitely still worth it. A lot of things are still changing. You know what I'm saying? Has freight gotten back to what it has in 2020? No. Definitely hasn't. Around that peak of COVID where rates and people were making 10,000, 20,000 in a week, it definitely hasn't got. I don't think we're ever probably gonna see that again, because it made sense why it did. It was a global pandemic. You know what I'm saying? So unless we experience something like that again, I don't see that happening. But the biggest thing I would say is just and one of the biggest things that I will say I've learned is that when I was going through at my peak, I should have been looking at different ventures as well. Like, I only stayed in dry van. You notice now I told you I've gotten into owner operators. Well, guess what? Those owner operators pull flatbed. So I'm now, my first flatbed load that I ever moved, technically I didn't move the load, the owner operator did. Right. But obviously I experienced and seen the rates that it pays. You know what I'm saying? So that was something that for sure I should have done a little. You know, when you're
diversify.
Absolutely. You know, that's the biggest thing I've learned now. When your business is at that high, you want to prepare for that down cycle that's going to come. You know what I'm saying? Because it's only a matter of time before it's going to come. And the better you prepare yourself for it, the less you'll feel it. When you don't prepare yourself like I did, I felt it to a T, because at that moment, I'm just thinking, you know, you can say, I'm not going to say I was feeling invincible, but I'm just feeling like, this is recession proof. Ain't nothing gonna, because like I said, I was making money before COVID. It's not like I, really started making money yet. It enhanced it. So I'm just thinking, man, even when the COVID goes away, I'm still gonna do my numbers that I've been doing, because I had my authority since 17. We hit the peak of COVID in 2021. You know what I'm saying? So I'm thinking, even when things get back to normal, it's at least gonna stay to what it was, but it didn't. It got so much more in the drain, which made sense, because you got all these people getting in the game because they hear how much money you can be made. They bought a course, whatever it was. And now the freight has gone down to what it used to be, but you have all these carriers now.
Volumes.
I don't know the exact numbers, but I can only imagine it might been double the carriers you had prior to COVID.
Right.
So it made sense why I would click on that board and not see no work.
Right.
And that's just the thing I'm just saying, as far as, well, I never would tell nobody, no, it's not worth getting into, because it's all in how you get into it. And that's with any business. You're always going to have people successful at something and not successful at it. Just everything. It doesn't matter how much money you're making. Look at NBA careers. People that are retired still wealthy. People that are retired and broke. You know what I'm saying? Rappers. People that are rapping and they're wealthy, and people that are rapping and they don't have much. So you're always going to talk to people that's successful at something. And then you're always going to talk to people that you can learn from that may have made some errors along their journey and weren't successful at. So my opinion, I always tell people, you really want to talk to both. You want to talk to the people that's successful, because it's important to know what to do when you get the money and how to get the money. But it's also important to talk to people that weren't successful, because you need to know what not to do. And I think I shared a lot of that here today. So, I think that that's important. You know what I'm saying? And for sure, that was one thing I definitely should have done at my peak. I should have been thinking about the downside. But as the saying goes, one thing about it is, until you fall, how do you know how to get up?
Right.
And I've fallen. But guess what? I've gotten up. You know what I'm saying? And just knowing that, it's a good feeling, just knowing that, of course, when I do fall, I can get up. And guess what? I can get up better now, because I know from day one how to prepare myself for the fall, which I didn't know how to do early on in my career.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, you look like you haven't missed a beat, man. Everything looks the same. You don't look like you're going through too much here. You're looking good.
Appreciate it.
So it's definitely great to reconnect with you, man, and just hear the story. Like I said, man, where are they now, man?
Yeah.
Everybody wants to know, like, an update.
Yeah.
So, like you said, it's been a roller coaster ride, and not only for you, for many in the business, and just in business in general, not just the trucking industry.
Yeah.
But you found out and figured out a way to still be able to maintain, and now you're growing again.
Yeah.
Right. Just in a new way, you've reimagined the way your business could be.
And finding now just understanding like one of my goals for 2026 is focusing more on my clothing brand, because I have a clothing brand that I was pushing and was doing very well at, but kind of taking my focus on that and putting my focus more on my trucking business. That's one of my goals as well too, because like I said, you want to find something that you can dump that money into. And one thing I always have liked over the years after just learning about different business ventures is e-commerce. Get into that online space, selling things, creating a product of some kind. I remember Master P talked about that, just having an actual product, being able to sell a product that has the power to do way more money than my trucking company has ever done. Because when you factor in, right now how I've been doing it, you only can scale so much from off that load board, of course. But when you factor in a whole new business venture of e-commerce, it's millions of people in the world. So if you can reach those people and offer them some type of product, you know what I mean, whether it's clothing or whatever, you have the power to do unlimited amount of money, just having a mindset to do it. So that's something that I've understand now, something that I've definitely been and going to continue to put money aside just towards that. Like I said, anybody that's looking to do this business, I highly recommend just find something to dump your profits into. So find something to invest into. You might not reap that investment for a year or two, but guess what? It's gonna be helpful, because one great thing about trucking is it's a high cash flow. The cash flow is when the money is good, the loads coming in, projects, certain projects come up. Like right now is peak season. People are winning, people are eating. So when times like this, dump that money into something else. You might not reap the benefit till next summer, but guess what? It's gonna hit. And oftentimes people end up investing into something else, and that something else ends up being so good, they shut the trucking company down. That's real talk. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, for sure. I got a lot of people that's no longer in the business. People trading now. People doing business funding now. A lot of other things that people are doing, you know what I'm saying, that came from kind of trucking. They started with trucking and they're doing something else, which is one of the reasons why, I feel like a lot of people will appreciate this interview, because just, we always talk about the success, but my experience I just want to give was just also just talking about just the struggles of trucking, man, because it's not easy. No business is easy, and trucking is damn sure not easy, but it's doable. You know what I'm saying? So just making sure that you go into it with the right mindset, go into it with the right knowledge, watching a lot of these interviews that you do, Mel, so many people dropping so much game, people soaking up that game and knowing what to do. They're going to win, because you're educating yourself, versus getting into something like I did, no knowledge, no nothing, just a couple dollars in the bank and thinking that you're going to make it. It ain't going to work out like that.
No doubt. You've been able for a final thought, man. What's the last parting words you want to leave the audience with? And then we'll let everybody know where they can connect with you at.
Okay.
But yeah, let's start with your final thought, man.
Yeah, man, just like I said, just blessed just to be here. 10 years, that's major to me. Over those 10 years, I've never had to punch a 9 to 5, which is just a huge blessing. I just want to shout out to all the people that's in trucking, all the people that's no longer in trucking, because one thing about it, it's about, I always pride myself in saying, man, I'm not just a truck driver. I'm an actual entrepreneur, because a lot of people, they start off doing one business and then they shut that business down and do something else completely different. Or they start off doing one business, let's say trucking, have to go back to working 9 to 5 and start a trucking company again. You know what I'm saying? Like everyone's journey is different. The entrepreneur game is not easy by far. People, it's a saying, I'm sure you heard it, where they say you get out of your 9 to 5 just to work 24/7.
Right.
And that's so true, because a lot of times the breakthrough doesn't come until years later. I started my business in 2016. I didn't see no real success until almost 2 years later. You know what I'm saying? Was when I started to see like numbers that were really, really what I should have been making, from the jump. You know what I'm saying? So that, I feel like that's just the biggest thing, just understanding that. And a lot of people that may feel like, feel down, man, because mentally, just whether you're male, female, it doesn't matter. But just, I can just speak from my position of just being a man, right? And when it comes to us being providers and experiencing the entrepreneur and not having what you're used to having, it can be a lot. Just don't lose yourself, man. At the end of the day, you want to shut that business down before you lose yourself, because nothing is worth, losing it all. Nothing is worth. So many people have lost it all because they didn't shut their business down in the time frame that they should have shut it down. They try to hold on to something that was just continuing to drown them. You know what I'm saying? So don't feel less of yourself if you watching this and you're no longer in business. Hey, man, I'm here to tell you it is okay. You know, there's no limit. Check this out. You only can have one social security number, right?
That's right.
That's facts, right? There's no limit to how many EIN numbers you can have. There's no limit to how many business that you can have. There's no limit to having to bankrupt a company and start another company. It's okay. The president himself has went bankrupt several times and he's still a billionaire. You know what I'm saying? So don't feel any kind of way if you was one of those people where you got in this game and you had to start over from scratch and you're still trying to make ends meet. You know what I'm saying? Or you might be in your trucking journey and it's not going so well and you down to, like me, that last 10,000 and you trying to figure out what to do. It's okay to pull the plug. You know what I'm saying? Revamp some things, get you a 9-to-5. You know what I mean? And restart your journey. That is okay. I feel like with social media nowadays, you seeing so many people successful. And that's one thing I never let get to me. So one thing I never let get to me was seeing other people that may be successful while I'm experiencing my low. I always make sure I still gave them flowers. That motivated me to get back to the top. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times people experience lows and then they see other people successful and it makes them feel some kind of way. Nah, it's okay. It's life. Life is never going to be 100% up. You might be doing well, but there's plenty of other people that's not doing well. So just embrace the struggle, embrace the journey, and just make sure that mental, you keep that all the way 100% there, even if you got to shut that company down, go work a 9-to-5 or do whatever it is that you have to do to get back to the top. Some people close their business, work a 9-to-5, never start another business again. It's okay. You know what I'm saying? A lot of jobs out here pay great money. UPS truck drivers make over $140,000 a year. You get what I'm saying? So that's one thing about me I take pride in. I'm an entrepreneur, but best believe I never forget and never will get a big head on my shoulders to think I'm better than anyone or think a 9-to-5 is not it anymore or anything of that. So I would say for sure that's my final words, and hopefully I definitely hit home with that message right there.
No doubt. I love it, man. B. Phillips. Where can people connect with you, man? Learn more about you and plug the clothing line too, man.
Oh yeah, for sure. So they can connect with me at B Phillips, BPH, and it's spelled with 3 L's. So it's BPHI and then 3 L's IPS. You'll see my Instagram pop right up. The clothing brand is on as well. The site's down right now since we're still kind of revamping and things like that. But that is my only platform to connect me on. If you want to shoot me an email for any business or anything like that, as I do provide flatbed, dry van, and box truck services, the email address is right there where you can hit contact and it'll send me a direct email if you want to connect or anything like that. And yeah, that's it.
All right, Hustle fam, you know what we do around this time. If you smell something burning, it's only a desire, man. Brock, this has been really, really fun reconnecting with you, brother.
For sure.
Very inspiring story. I wish you nothing but success. I know you're going to keep on just killing it out here, man, because that's just what you do.
Oh, yeah.
And I look forward to maybe reconnecting in another couple years or so and seeing
sure.
where this
maybe
thing
I got to
goes,
interview
man.
you next time, man.
Man, I got a little story
You got
to
a little
tell,
story?
too.
Yeah,
You
we
know
just
what I mean?
talked about it for sure.
We could definitely do that. But listen, this has been a dope episode. Y'all tune in. Keep on tuning in. We love y'all, Hustle fam. We are out.
Come.
All right, y'all, listen, I'm happy to announce that we finally launched our YouTube memberships. Listen, if you want to support Truck and Hustle for all the hard work that we've been doing over the past 5 years, this is where you need to be. As a part of our memberships, number one, you'll get exclusive access to all of our archive content. Number two, we'll be doing at least one live webinar with one of the guests or somebody else from our network that you love to continue to add value to you and your business. Third, we'll be having exclusive behind the scenes content that we shoot and doesn't, make the final cut. So make sure you go check it out. Get that subscription right now and join us, man. TNH forever. Let's go. All right, guys, if you love Truck and Hustle and you love the interviews and the information that we're providing week to week, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the channel. All right, Hustle fam.